Okay, okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the TED Talk CS:GO podcast. As you can see, I'm joined by four lovely gentlemen. Obviously, episode number one. I've been waiting to do that for a long time, but you know, I'm a lazy motherfucker. So what can I say? I'm gonna be joined by the lovely Jack, Neo, and Ryan, who obviously are CSGO casters, or at least they pretend to be. How are you doing today, guys?
Very good. Very
Not
good.
now, mate. Pretend to be casters.
You know, everyone, in the end of the day, everyone knows that we're getting paid to pretend that we know something about the game that we don't really know, so...
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Okay, so how have you guys been doing? Obviously, Jack is a person that I know everything about because for whatever reason we've been working together for the past 2 years, so we've been in a relationship. But you two guys actually have some big news, and you know, before we get into all that we have to discuss today, congrats on making the RMR. You're going to be casting the RMRs.
Thank you. I don't know about you, Retro, but I think for me it's probably the biggest thing we've ever done. I reckon.
Yeah.
Probably the most prestigious thing. You know, it's I don't know. It's a good opportunity, right? I think Ryan, you were telling me if everything goes to plan in terms of the favorites win against the underdogs, we do phase C9.
Yeah. So like we got the 2-0 game in RMR which is like fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, phase C9. It all goes
on
to
the
plan.
C stream as well, by the way. Like I'm not complaining, but why would you slap the 2-0 game on the C stream? I don't know, but yeah. We've got a fair few games, 2 BO1s, 4 BO3s, I think, on the C stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a good laugh for sure. I think it is the biggest event.
We're gonna have a lot of fun on that as well. We're gonna chat about it in a bit. I even have something prepared for you because you know tier lists are really trendy, and I want to be a trendy guy. So we're
there's gonna be some hot takes between us. Mate,
yeah, I've seen
Neo
Neo's game. I've seen Neo's game with the tier list on Twitter, just publishing it, being like, guys, I'm really curious to see what you think about it. Whereas he doesn't really give a shit about it, but it's like you're gonna have the chance to you're gonna have the chance to give your thoughts about this one. Obviously, we're gonna do only one of the RMRs, but before we get into it, I'm gonna obviously wish you good luck with the RMRs because you know it's a big thing. Man. All four of us actually started together. It's kind of cool because like we started casting like 2 years ago or like a year and a half ago, and now everyone's working. Like I don't think there's a single person that started back then and is still casting CS now that hasn't done an A tier event. Right.
Well, I always think about like the original 6 or 7 that was on Snow Sweet Snow. It was us, k0nfig, and Pavlos, right? X-Warrior. I'm right in saying we were the OGs basically.
And
we
it was
first lot doing Snow Sweet
Josh
Snow.
as well.
M&J as well.
M&J as well. Yeah. And it was.
So it's like all of us still work. Obviously, you know, I know like Pavlos is basically like full. Well, Pavlos and k0nfig are both full-time now. But I mean, credit to them. They're doing VCT stuff, so it's of the same kind of caliber as kind of A-tier event. Yeah. So I mean, all of us are basically kind of still in and around the scene, which is pretty sick.
I was gonna say it was us four, Nexus, Grev, X-Warrior, DK Truman, k0nfig, M&J.
Yeah, I think DK is doing well in Dota, right? He's doing a lot of Dota stuff.
He's working with Esports, who are like they do a lot of stuff basically.
Yeah, so it's been a fun time. It's been a fun time, guys.
Wild one.
But you know. I assume you're feeling well. I assume you're here to not only talk about you know how much we love each other and just leaking each other's asses, but we're gonna speak some CS. We're gonna speak some CS. Obviously, I'm gonna get you started with the most basic thing. You know, what happened yesterday. Vitality winning Pro League. I don't know about you guys. I watched the entire game. I watched all 7 hours of it, the entire final. Kind of draining, to be fair. Even if you're just watching it, but before we actually get into the entirety of the tournament and just speaking teams, you know, performances and stuff, because we have a lot of things to discuss. I actually want to hear your thoughts about it because there's been some discussions on Twitter about whether you're fans of the BO5 final or no.
I'm opinionated on this. I mean, Retro, feel free to go first, but I've got opinions.
I love the BO5s. I think the only issue with the BO5 is if it's a shit one, like it goes 3-0, like it's an absolute whitewash. But I think we're very fortunate in the last like 3 BO5s we've had. Like they've all gone like the distance, very close games. I think they're very hit and miss because if you get a good BO5, man, is it like a fun watch. Like the one we had obviously just gone. That was a banger of a BO5 to watch. You know, we had overtimes, we had upsets, we had comebacks. We literally had everything you could ask for in a BO5. I'm all for it, but I think as soon as we get like 2 bad best of 5s where they're both like 3-0, like I think people would just want it straight up gone. Like it's just, you might as well just play a BO3 at that point. But yeah, I'm a firm believer in the BO5s. I love them.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's like I'm actually kind of the other way. Like I like best of 5s, but I think it should only be saved for really specific things. So like a major final is a best of 5. Even that can be contested because a lot of people kind of just think sticking to the best of 3 format works. But I think it really should be only saved for certain events. I don't think Pro League should be one of them. I think generally speaking, Pro League is already too long as an event. A 5-week event is a bit of a joke. It does get a little bit stale for me just because of how long it is, and most people don't really like it. That is just how it is. It's just really stale. 5 weeks are kind of the same teams doing the same thing. But yeah, I don't think a best of 5 should be used for Pro League. I think it should be saved for like the big boy events in person where it's like Katowice, Cologne, maybe a major. I don't think we should use for Pro League because the crowd was smaller than the iSeries crowd. I mean, what's the point? Like Epic Land's getting more people in person than that Malta crowd. So for me, I just don't see the point. Like no one's going to be getting the kind of the feeling. Best of 5 is good because the crowd makes it good. That crowd isn't going to make it good.
You know what's the thing though? Like I think only half a million people or so live in Malta. So you're probably like you're not going to get a lot of CS fans in there, even if you have like some of the players and some of the staff of the other teams that are not playing, just being in the crowd and watching the games, this is going to be as good as it gets. So I guess that's just, I don't think EPL even had live audience in Düsseldorf, right?
I don't think
for the previous finals.
Yeah.
And they have it now in Malta, which for me, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. But
it's got to start earlier as well. I mean, this kind of finishing at like midnight UK time, which is like 1 a.m. or like maybe like 1 or 2 a.m. like local time. It's like, I feel like if you're going to do a best of 5, it's obviously going to end up being 7-8 hours if you go all 5 maps. You can't be starting like in the evening because it's just going to be the longest thing ever. It was 2 a.m. for me
when the game ended.
Exactly. And that is kind of ridiculous. Like for me, I think if you're going to do it, start at like 3 p.m. like, UK or EU time, whatever. And then at least it'll finish, 10 p.m. latest. And then it's like, okay, it's fine. Like that was a cool event. But finishing at like 2 a.m. your time, I mean, that's kind of a bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like it. In certain situations, I'm kind of with Neo on this one. Like it's like it can be really good, but then also coming back to what Ryan was saying as well, you do get some shit ones. Like I think it was like IEM Summer in the final Gambit played OG, I think it was.
Oh yeah.
And it was like a 3-0. It was just a fucking whitewash. And I remember looking at that and just going, I actually never want to watch Counter-Strike again. It took the fun out of a grand final, but like that, I think it should be kind of saved for like your major finals. Pro League, I would argue that they could do with Pro League, although it is kind of a 5-week event. I think if they want to do it, you have to have a live audience, but you have to like up the scale of it, because I think it would have been fine if they had more people there. If they had more people there and they advertised it a little bit more as, come over for the the final days. Because I didn't really see all that much about, tickets being sold.
I actually didn't realize there was going to be live audience before I heard it on broadcast, to be fair.
Yeah. Like, if you're going to do it, advertise it. Do you know what I mean? And then get people interested in it, because I know a lot of people that would have said, oh yeah, like there's another CS event. It's Pro League, there's all the top teams are going to be there. It's going to be a good final. Like, could you imagine being there and actually witnessing that and, witnessing history? Because that's what it was.
Malta's like sick at this time of year. It's so sunny. It's like Malta's a cheap place because it's a tax haven. It's like, get me there, mate. Beach and CSGO, like that's like a dream all day. It's not like there's conflict of any other events going on at the moment. Like if they'd advertise that properly, I'd fucking go.
Yeah, that's the thing though. This is a really good destination to kind of like try and get other people to come there, but you're not gonna get a lot from the domestic fan base. You're not gonna get that. But it's a really good destination to try and pursue people to fly over to, because it's like, as you pointed out, it's cheap. The weather is really good, and you have.
I don't think flights are bad either. So.
No. I don't think they're bad. A lot of the airports actually, I think, fly to Malta.
Yeah, like if you wanted to fly, it was like 3 weeks notice. You can get a plane ticket for like 60 quid.
Yeah,
which is the ticket.
And
the ticket when you're there, like is going to be like what to get into the event, mate. Like 50 quid maybe, like maximum for the weekend. Like I'd have loved to have gone. I think as well, you've got to give a little bit of respect to ESL, because outside of doing Cologne and Katowice, they don't really have like the beacons elsewhere, right? Like I think back to Pro League when like Cloud9 won it. It was out in like Sao Paulo or whatever. That was drummed up to hell, and they had massive crowds. I think this is just a step after COVID for them.
And
just being like, do you know what? We want to set the feelers out a little bit more, start with the smaller audiences, and then maybe looking into getting events and stuff. It's not like they're short of change. Like we all know, they're not short of money with selling the whole event, and they got
apparently that's not it.
billions.
Though. Apparently Malta like doesn't have the facilities like itself. Like, it actually doesn't have the stadiums.
I think there was something about production as well, because they said that apparently Malta like physically doesn't have a lot of people that can do production, and they need to fly them in. Yeah, you need to fly them in as well, which is another setback. But like, if you look at Pro League as not the same event as a Kato or a Cologne, I guess it's pretty much different, because you know you have all those levels. So I look at Pro League, I look at like the Premier League or stuff like that, where you have like different echelons, and you know this is the top one. So I guess this is why they want it to be longer as well, because they want it to be like people are playing open and intermediate and advanced for a couple months. So we don't want the first like echelon of it, the top echelon of it, to be over in like 5 days as a normal like ordinary event. We want this to be like a tournament, but like a leaderboard stuff thing. Although you still have the group stage and all of that. But I guess this is like the 5-week tournament. That's the only thing I like about it, to be fair. The only thing I dislike about it is that if you're Group A, you're not playing for, I don't know, you play your matches, you qualify for the playoffs, then you wait for like 2 weeks without really doing anything.
Yeah, like you're sitting around, like you're sitting on your thumbs, you know what I mean, and complaining. You know, it's like we could go into the whole hotel fiasco story as well. You know, like I'd say frustration kind of came down to that as well, because you know Navi like didn't have the best event, and then all of a sudden, you know, we start seeing all this shit on Twitter of, you know, people just not unhappy and stuff like that. But you know, when you're sat in the room, basically looking at 4 walls around you, like, you know, that's probably a contributing factor, especially when you're waiting so long for, you know, Group B, Group C, and Group D. Like, I think they really need to mix it up and kind of have it maybe a few games running at the same time.
Might make it a little bit more confusing, but it's going to be a lot better for the players themselves.
Yeah, for the players, but then again, you know, you have to think about it as like from a viewer point, you know, like if like people are watching it. But then again, you know, you give opportunity, like if you look at it from our point of view as well, you give opportunities to more casters, because, you know, like, you know, you have to have like 2 or 3 games running simultaneously, like they have with the RMR. They'd have to hire more talent, you know. So yeah, there's a lot more to it. But
that conversation was just a plan of Jack, just to make sure he gets to that point where he's like, so hire me.
Do you know what though? People always say about like, oh, you know, I dream of working on this game, you know, Cologne or Katowice or whatever. Honestly, as a caster, if you're thinking like financially, you should be dreaming of a Pro League, mate. 5 weeks pay, you are swimming, mate. You're sorted for the year. 5 weeks on the day rate some of them tier 1 guys get, you are done.
That's like, an interesting topic, to be fair.
That's your year sorted, mate.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of money. That's like you're making like people's annual wage in like 5 weeks.
Yeah, you are.
So, and you're doing it in Malta as well.
I did it in Malta in a hotel. 5-star hotel.
The hotel. There's a fucking cold
5-star hotel, infinity pool that you can walk into, and it's like, you know, obviously all their meals and stuff I get paid for. I mean, that is the 5 weeks. Like, I mean, that is, if you're thinking financially, obviously, you know, you want to do Cologne and Katowice and the major, whatever, is like prestige. But if you just think of just pure cash, like Pro League's the one. 5 weeks. Oh.
Yeah. I guess. By the way, I think this is an interesting thing for me. By the way, before moving on and obviously getting into the entire like in-game situation, what happened with the teams and stuff. I actually look at it right now. I'm just like, you know what? I'd actually do that for free. I mean, it's a great thing. It's a great thing, you know. You just get there. You, as you said, you're working 5 weeks nonstop at a lovely destination. You're getting the bag, you're getting the food and whatnot. But I actually imagine, like, tell 15-year-old Ted a couple of years ago, you're gonna fly to Malta and cast that, and it doesn't matter how old I become. Like, I'm still gonna remember that. I'm gonna be like, if I was 15 and someone tells me you're gonna do that, I don't care about the money. Like, the only I think I actually said that to myself. Obviously, this is a bit of a different thing, but I don't know if you guys actually have thoughts about that. When I was just starting as a caster, the first thing I was thinking about, it wasn't money. I was just like, I want to make enough just to make sure that I can make a living and continue doing what I love. So I don't really like. obviously with growth, you're gonna want more. You're gonna have to like look for an apartment, get a car, and stuff like that, which is expensive. But like originally, my idea was just like, you know what? I just want to make sure I can have a normal life and do what I love. That's the money I need, and it's crazy that you're able to, as Neo said, just make someone's annual salary after like 5 weeks of work in Malta,
ridiculous.
watching CS.
I don't think anyone.
It's not easy. It's not easy. It's really tiring, but it's still like it's what you love.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think any of us became casters for the money, right? I feel like everyone, you do it for the passion, right? Because the chances of making their money.
I actually want to meet the person that decided, you know what, I'm gonna become a caster and I'm gonna be so good.
I'm gonna chase the bag.
in 2 years, I'm gonna be able to live a better lifestyle than my parents or something like that. I don't think anyone's thought that of himself. Yeah, everyone's just like, I love doing that. I'm gonna start loving that, and then eventually you get to the good part of it, which obviously we have a long way to go until we get to it. But going back into some more CS stuff, some interesting things actually happened during Pro League. Obviously, I want us to actually start from the group stage. I don't want us to start from the grand final. So I'm gonna go for a bit of a switch here. I hope this one works because this is the first time I'm doing this. So if it doesn't, sorry. I think it does. Okay, it's perfect. So starting us with Group A, I actually wanna ask you guys. I was thinking if we should do a tier list about this one. I really think that it's not needed because we already have the results. But I want us to speak about the teams that didn't make it through the group stage. First of all, is there someone that you think could actually get the positives out of it, and then vice versa? Is there somebody that you think had a massive stinker, just a massive disappointment after this tournament?
I think
probably Ents.
Yeah, the argument definitely for teams that should be doing better. Ents, probably Big, and maybe even Movistar Riders. I'd throw into that equation a little bit as well.
You're not putting an Astralis in there. I'm
no.
NIP.
They're finished, man.
NIP are just about to make changes, right? Like they're bringing in Alexi B. So I don't think like the bar was non-existent for me. I mentioned Movistar Riders, and I think it was a massive talking point I wanted to bring up. Is that you've got to think this team made top 4 in Cologne. 4 out of the 5 players were in the top 4 of Cologne. Playing on stages, tens of thousands of people watching, hundreds of thousands at home. They had all the pressure in the world, and they took every opportunity. And now that you're talking Pro League, and you look at their results, losing a best of 3 against Evil Geniuses and Eternal Fire from top 4 in Cologne, massive disappointment from them. And I don't even think it's down to the fact that they lost some players. I think Martinez is actually quite capable as a player. It's quite early on to tell because obviously he's so new. But you had 80% of this roster and the coach playing on the stages of Cologne. And then you bottom out in Group D. It's so disappointing for them.
I'd argue a little bit on that one. By the fact that, you know, like, you're obviously like, there's obviously going to be a hole in the team when you lose a player like Sampaios. Like, and I don't care. I don't care how capable Martinez is now. And I want to say this before I even go into the point. Like, I rate Martinez very, very highly. I think he's a very good player. I think he will do well with that team, but you know, you can't kind of expect him to just come in and fill the boots of one of the best operas that we have seen, because Sampaios was the reason, was one of the key factors to why Movistar Riders were doing so well, like every single event, because he could single-handedly win you important rounds. He could carry the team a little bit if they weren't feeling it, like during those big games. And when you're losing that, I don't care who you are, like what team you are, if it's tier 1, if it's tier 2, or, you know, if it's tier 10. If you lose a player with that kind of ability and you try and replace him, there's obviously going to be a teething stage. Like, it's not just going to click instantly. So I would give them a little bit of a let off, although yes, of course, it is going to be a little bit disappointing for them guys. I do agree with that point, but you know, I wouldn't be overly critical of them. And then the same goes for Ents, right? I mean, like, Sampaios coming in there and Valde as well. Like, you're changing 2 players out of the 5. You know, like it's your first event. I honestly think Ents are going to take the positives out of that one. You know, I mean, they started well. They beat Heat. They had some close games in there. You know, they really, really did. Complexity, I think, surprised everybody. The same with Mars. I think the only really disappointing result that was in there and that they probably should have beat was Astralis, because I think Astralis are just, I think they're gone. But I mean, we'll go into that a little bit later.
We'll go into that. Yeah, we have a lot of time for config and device.
Exactly. But you know, I think Ents honestly do have a really good chance at the RMR. I think although it's disappointing, I think, you know, they're going to be using that Pro League as just kind of a little bit of practice, and the RMR is where we're going to see them shine. And Neo knows I've already rated Ents pretty highly. I've already put them as a 3-0. Surprise! Sorry, Neo, I'm doing a little bit of a spoiler, but
it's all right.
I've already put them as a 3-0 in what you call it, in the RMR, because I've that much faith in the pickups of Sampaius and Valdi.
By the way, I think sorry to cut you off there. I think it's I think in that scenario, maybe the fact that Ents did win their first game against Heat that convincingly, because it was a battering from what I remember. I even watched the game. It didn't even look close. I think that both like Sampaius and Valde just played on a really high individual level in that game. So a lot of people, only because of that game against Heat, were then really disappointed after that and Ents, and actually forgot that this is a new team, because like obviously you can get away with winning against Heat only because your players are really good individually, but then you play against a Heroic, you play against the Mouse, which, you know, they're not like, they're not title contenders, but they're still really solid. Even a Complexity that's been obviously putting in the hours, right? Obviously they've looked a lot more solid. So against some of those teams, you're not gonna get away with it. You're not gonna get away with having some holes. Obviously Sampaius is just getting used to communicating in English as well, so I guess you can find a lot of reasons for Ents not to do that great. And whereas I'd say for the Movistar Riders, I don't really, I'm actually leaning to agree with Jack on this one. I think this is not a big disappointment, because obviously when you take away a player like Sampaius, it's not just the open aspect of it. It's the fact like people don't understand. A good oper is really different to a useful oper for a team, right? You can be a really good oper in terms of hitting shots and you know, knowing how to position yourself. Like I'm gonna give you an example. Hades is an amazing mechanically gifted oper. In the same time though, an oper that's really well rounded knows how to open up space, and he knows how to position his teammates around him in a way that they're all more comfortable and more useful. So I guess this is something that Sampaius used to do in Movistar, and they're gonna need some time to teach Martinez to do the exact same thing, because this comes with experience.
Yes, I mean, to us, I think again lean slightly in favor of you, Jack, kind of how you were saying. I think the Movistar, there definitely is problems there, though. I don't think, you know, coming off the high of Cologne and then going straight into a kind of Pro League, and it kind of in this rough performance, there's definitely something going on. But I don't think it's kind of a case of, like, I think we're very quick to kind of say, okay, you know, they've lost Sampaius, therefore that's the reason. I don't think that is it, because even when Sampaius is in the roster, well, he did put up, like, you know, unbelievable stats. It wasn't like he hard carried Movistar to all their success. It wasn't like he individually was the reason why they found, obviously, very much helped, put up some ridiculous performances. But I think probably it was kind of a case of them going from, you know, the absolute pinnacle of kind of Cologne, everything going really well, and coming in that first game against Liquid, off the top of my head, I remember it went 3 maps, but I don't remember. I remember one of them was really brutal for Movistar.
And
then
after
of course they follow with Furia.
You're thinking Movistar are gonna be sick again.
Yeah, exactly. And they follow with Fury as well. And that first one was like, they only got like 3 rounds in there, like the opening maps. They got absolutely battered. And I think there's definitely, it's a mental problem. I don't think it's a case of kind of firepower. I think Martinez is actually all right. I saw him a little bit kind of dotted around the kind of tier 2, tier 3 seed. He looks pretty capable. I mean, you can't really tell when you step up in towards kind of tier 1, but he looked very decent. But
I can tell you one thing: he's very good. He's very good.
Jack's gonna pull out a story out of the back. I played against him on the face, and he destroyed me 100% every time.
He had 20 kills after 7 rounds. But not enough to take my elo though. So
Jack's just playing with people that boost him, and then he goes on broadcast. He's like, "I'm so sick of the game."
But I'm not gonna sit here and claim I've seen loads of him. When he got signed, I watched a couple of demos, and the guy's pretty good. He seems smart, right? And that's kind of what they're looking for. But I think there's definitely some mental issues over towards Movistar is kind of what's going wrong. I think they just need to chill out now. They've had kind of like the highest of the highs, now the lowest of the lows, go bombing out in groups. They just need a bit of time to kind of, you know, relax a little bit and actually kind of work as a team rather than constantly playing these officials where they don't get a breather after what was, you know, an amazing kind of a previous few months with Sampaius and then a pretty rough kind of last month. But I think for me, the biggest one that is an upset, biggest made me want to mention, but I actually rate Outsiders higher than them. That's my personal opinion. So that didn't surprise me. I think Fame's fucking brilliant. But Na'Vi, I think, is actually probably one of the more upsetting ones. You know, they came into this as arguably one of their favorites. A lot of people actually was very comfortable or confident. I myself actually kind of thought they'd make the finals. And then group started, and it was just really, really not. I think they got very fortunate, to be perfectly honest, because Spirit and NIP were both on the same amount of games won, games lost. So, like, for me, I think Na'Vi is probably one of the more, like, concerning ones. You know, we've got the major around the corner, and Na'Vi are, you know, squeaking their way into playoffs, and then in playoffs, not really looking fantastic, all things considered. And that one was the biggest worry for me. I guess the other one maybe would be Heroic. I thought, you know, on paper, Heroic's the only team that can take that group, and the fact that they didn't, I guess, is the one that I guess is a concern to me. Credit to Miles, I actually didn't expect them to do as well as they did with the youngsters, but I think Na'Vi is the biggest one for me. That I think that is quite concerning that they only just made playoffs, and even when they were in playoffs, it wasn't great, all things considered.
I actually have something I wanna say in that aspect. Speaking about Na'Vi, I actually think this is something interesting that maybe you guys haven't really thought about. I was thinking, because I haven't really heard anyone say it out loud. You know, Simple back in the days used to be famous with just being a really passionate guy on social media and the way that he's speaking. And one of the big differences that I actually seen in his behavior for the last, let's say, 2 years, you know, if you could call it the Na'Vi era or something like that, because of the Stockholm major and stuff, he was a lot more. I'd say he was a lot more contained with his emotions and the way that he was acting. Whereas now, post-break, you've seen him go nuts on Twitter. You've seen him chat shit about a lot of people. Something that he hasn't done in years. And, you know, I think this has to be connected. I don't know, for whatever reason, like, Simple just looks a little bit more infuriated. Well, not infuriated, but impassionate for me. I think he's a bit frustrated at something. And, you know, obviously a lot of people go, like, this is life. Sometimes you can't be the best professional every single time, unless you're playing on Astralis. Then somehow those people don't have emotions. But if you're a normal human being, obviously from time to time, we're going to be seeing you just forget that you should behave and act professionally on social media and stuff, and, you know, go ham. But it's something that is really connected to the results of Na'Vi, it seems. And when he's really calm about it, like when he's really calm in his behavior, Na'Vi do really well. And another thing I wanted to actually bring up was, I think all of the things that happened with Boomage and Na'Vi in general have actually made us forget about Bit actually dropping massively with his individual performance this year. I mean, you compare the stats from last year and this year, Bit's dropped, I think, 0.1 or 0.15 with his rating and stuff, which obviously rating isn't the most important thing. But when you're playing some of the most impactful positions on pretty much all of the maps, and you'd expect this guy to be performing well. And we saw what happened when he was performing well. Now he's dropped a little bit, and Na'Vi seem to struggle. And then, obviously, after all of that, there's going to be a lot of questions regarding SDY and stuff. But actually, I'm really looking forward to hearing your opinion on this, guys. But I actually think SDY has been doing all right. I think he's not the problem for Na'Vi right now.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I don't know what's obviously going on behind closed doors. But yeah, it does seem that Simple is a little bit angry.
He's on edge all the time.
Yeah, a little bit. You know what I mean? Just
you're kind of waiting for an outburst, aren't you? A little bit.
You're
like,
just waiting. You're just waiting to log into Twitter. Just waiting. Just you know, he's walking on thin ice. You know what I mean? Like, and you're just waiting for something to happen, something to set him off, and then we'll
you know what's the thing though? He's big enough that cancel culture doesn't really catch him anymore. I mean, he can chat all the shit in the world. It's like Ronaldo. You remember the World Cup? Ronaldo just taking off the cola bottles of the desk in front of him. I feel like this is the level of Simple right now. So he's just like, you know what? I'm gonna tell them that they booked a shit hotel. I'm gonna do it. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, that was mad, man. That was absolutely mental. Yeah. Like he was. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with him at the minute, man. I really don't. But you could see, like, maybe that is a key factor of why it's not going well. Maybe the attitude in the team while they're playing is maybe a bit down, because, you know, when you know somebody's kind of on edge and you're kind of, you know, almost bubble wrapping them in certain situations. You know, you're trying not to piss them off just in case, you know, something flips. Maybe there's a little bit of that going on. But, like, I don't want to take anything away from Simple's professionalism either. But yeah, I'd say Bit in general, his performance has gone down a little bit. But, like, maybe is that to do with the transition of you know, a new IGL? You know, maybe he's just not used to the calling. You know, maybe Bit You know, he was getting away with a few things. Now a lot of people are maybe beginning to counter him. That's also another part of it. You know, we've seen it with Cloud9. You know, Cloud9, well, when they were Gambit, they were dominating for ages, right? And then they just didn't change up their style of play for a very, very long time. They became shit because everybody knew how they played, everybody watched their demos, and everybody was able to counter them. And you know, maybe that's a little bit of what is happening to Bit right now. I'm not too sure. But yeah, I think Pro League definitely a disappointment, but I think you'd be a fool. I think you'd be a fool to rule them out of doing well in the RMR.
Yeah, I guess a lot of it has to do with what's going on in. Obviously, I didn't really want to bring up politics, but a lot of it had to do with what's going on in Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you'd want to believe that this wouldn't affect them that much, but in the same time, it's like understandable.
Yeah.
It's just a shit situation what's going on right now, and it's really bad because like obviously you don't really get it so much, like as much on medias as you used to a couple months ago. So a lot of people actually assume that, you know, it's cooled off a little bit, whereas it hasn't really. But yeah, I guess just focusing on the in-game aspect of it, it's just been, you know, the results are the results, and you'd expect a little bit better than Na'Vi, but again, it's justified.
I was going to say as well, something that a lot of people have kind of overlooked is Sum Young is still on loan, right? He's actually not part of the roster at the end of it all. They might not even sign Sum Young. So for me as well, obviously, as you said, politics aside, I feel like SDY is also a big question mark for Na'Vi, is that you're prepping for 3 big events this year, plus the maybe, you know, the aftermath of the major as well. It could be something afterwards. You're looking at a player that might not even stay in Na'Vi. So you've got a lot of things going a little bit wayward with Na'Vi outside of what's happening, obviously, with Ukraine, in that, you know, your stand-in might not even exist.
By the way, I
Simple
just saw,
seems to be
as
pretty on
we're
edge.
speaking about it, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Go on.
Yumi's actually put on the same point in chat about the entire situation in Ukraine, and that's extremely valid. I mean, that has a lot to do with it.
100%, man, 100%. Like, but to see, like, going back to Yumi, like what Yumi was saying, yeah, I don't know why they're on edge. Yeah, I think, you know, I just haven't really thought of it at all because, you know, we like, I mean, how often do you guys see it, you know, on Twitter? Like, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but like, we're just not seeing that much
it
of it.
Doesn't
And
get
it's just
that much attention, yeah.
Exactly, which is wrong completely. But you know, like, I'm just trying to stay away from politics in general. Like, obviously the form is going to be dipping, and now you're going to see it. Like, I don't know where the team even goes from here. Like, with that situation, if we're talking about that.
All I'm saying is, angry Simple is the scariest Simple. Like, you actually like you're hoping when you come into a game that Simple's actually like in a calm mood and a lovely breakfast, and like, you know, his hotel's all right. But when he's pissed off, like, do you not remember when there was like that 2-hour tech delay and he came back and he fucking farmed?
You know what that is? I think he's just like,
just
like, you know what?
I'm done with this.
Those guys fucked me up. Now I'm gonna fuck you up in the server. I'm sorry about it, but you know the thing is.
When Simple's angry, that's when he's actually at his best. But I think for Na'Vi, it's just they still haven't changed anything. Like, obviously, like I don't think iGelling's a problem because Na'Vi don't. The IGL's not an issue for because it's not. It doesn't matter. I could fucking IGL because it's Blade system. It doesn't matter. It's all Blade. It's not about who's the IGL. I'm pretty certain Electronic doesn't even do that much in terms of, he might mid-round call a bit, but I'm pretty sure they all chip in for mid-round call. It's Blade system. It's Blades everything. Everyone knows that, and that's what makes Na'Vi so good. But I think there's just a case of that they haven't really adapted to a lot of situations where we see a lot of the good teams coming through now, making big changes, bringing in new puzzle pieces that are making them different and harder to read. We saw Vitality, of course, just do it. While there's still massive question marks around Spinks, definitely in my eyes, I'm not fully convinced on it just yet. While he's a great player, slotting in wise may take a little bit more time. I'll have to wait and see. But for Na'Vi, I just think, like, you know, the great thing about Stockholm way back when, of course, I was there in person for Stockholm, and it was the big story was that Bit was so good because no one knew how to play against Bit. He was just unstoppable because he was so aggressive and he was so brilliant in certain positions and on certain maps as well. He was unstoppable. But now everyone knows how Bit plays. Now everyone knows what he does, what his kind of nuances are. And same for Na'Vi, they kind of know what the nuances are, which is making them a little bit easier to read in terms of when teams come against them. And we saw it in the playoffs, like in that G2 game, they just got hard counted. It was so comfortable. Like the read was so good from like G2. You could see every time when they took rounds in their favor, like you could see them gamble stacking sites because they knew that's where Na'Vi were going to go. Like they had a really good read on them. And I think that's probably just the case where Na'Vi now might need to try and bring in just something fresh to the plan. They've got the right puzzle pieces. I think the team's fine. Even though Sunday Young has been a bit questionable at times, but he plays tough roles, so stats isn't going to be a thing to look at. I think there maybe needs to be a little bit of a freshen up, and they'll be fine. Like they've got the right players to be the best team in the world comfortably. I just think that, that people are reading them, and we saw G2 do exactly that in playoffs.
Yeah. Before actually, okay, Ryan, you know what? We've been cutting you off for the past 20 minutes.
I was gonna say I want to chip in a bit here, and I want to argue as much as Na'Vi went 2 and 3. I think you got to look at all of the groups here and realize there's a very common denominator is that FaZe Clan also drop a best of 3 in their group. Heroic also drop a best of 3 in their group. Cloud9 also drop a best of 3 in their group. So your lead favorites in each one of these groups here actually do lose out somewhat in these BO3s in the group stage. So as much as the topical conversation always going to be Na'Vi, I think you've got to make a very similar argument for FaZe being the best team in the world. You should not be losing a best of 3 in the group stage. And of course that was to the lads at G2. It was 16-7, 16-12. It wasn't even a close best of 3 in that group stage game. Heroic obviously losing out to Mouse in the opening game 16-14, 16-9, and Cloud9 also losing out on one of their games, as I said, and that was against Liquid 10, 19, 17. So
by the
while
way,
Cloud9's the closest, all of these teams have a common denominator is that they lose in the group stage. So I don't want to make this a topical conversation specifically about Na'Vi because I think all of the teams are clearly having some sort of issue in the group stage. It's just Na'Vi have it worse than anyone else.
Yeah, but the Cloud9 one was they'd already secured their #1 spot in the group, right? They won their first 4 games. So I guess for them, I think this is the only, because you're making a really good point. Like the scene hasn't ever been that competitive as it is right now. I guess Cloud9 is the only team that I can look at and be like, easily they were the top team in their group. Easily, if that game against Liquid mattered for them, I think they win it. Like, obviously, playoffs is another story, right? A game in the playoffs is different to a game in the group stage. But I honestly think that Cloud9 was the most impressive team, obviously with vitality in terms of the group stage. Maybe most pleasant surprise was Mouse. But yeah, I guess FaZe and Na'Vi were awkward ones. You'd expect a little bit more, but I don't really think that people pay that much attention to group stage results. Like, as soon as you make it through quite comfortably and you don't need to play a last game deciding match, which actually Liquid did. They made it all the way into the final. They struggled massively into the group stage, and now we're like, when we get to the playoffs and stuff, we're gonna say that probably most of us are gonna be really well surprised by them, right? We're gonna start praising them. So I guess group stage is just a difficult one. Like, if you make it through, you've made it through. It's good enough. You can bounce back. We've seen that a couple times. I actually want to, before we get into playoffs, I actually want to hear your guys' opinion on one specific team, which I don't think you could really wish to be on a podcast with a Bulgaria and not really be asked that question. What do you think about the EG?
Garbage.
Oh
yes!
Wow!
No, do you know what?
That's harsh. That's harsh.
It's not actually the team. It's EG. It's the worst organization ever, and like across every single esport. It's like EG. They have this okay, credit to them actually. They're like one of the most their moral compass is perfect. Like they have a really good moral compass. They treat their players probably the best I've ever heard of basically any orgs. Still doesn't mean the decision making is good. I know you're gonna talk about I know obviously Ted, you might be annoyed at this, but Cirque and Breeze, absolute paycheck stealers. I don't know what they're still doing there. They're absolutely the only player in that entire EG roster that should even be on the contract is automatic. The rest of them,
I can actually make a point about Nealon. I can make a point about Nealon.
I don't rate Nealon at all. What is that signing?
I think I can make a point about
all the players in the world that they could have got. If you get up a list of free agents now, I reckon I could list off 20 players I'd rather have over Nealon.
Hear me out.
I just don't get it.
Hear me out. I understand. Nealon isn't an IGL that you look at. He's not a player that you look at and you think tier 1, right? It's far from that idea. But I feel like you should be looking at EG not as a sinking ship. You're looking at EG. You're looking as a ship that's on the bottom, rock bottom.
Yeah, it's already sunk. Yeah.
Yeah, it's already sunk. But Ne0Kai is a guy that knows how to build a project from nothing, from zero. He knows what work ethic is. He is the person that, like, he was mainly responsible for the success that K23 had. And you know, K23, now 2 of their players, Norbert and Fame, are on Outsiders. Both of them are really talented. Fame is already making a name for himself. Norbert's having a bit of a slow start, but I guess he'll get there eventually as well, because we know, like, especially all 4 of us, we've been casting so many of their games. We know how good those guys are. But I guess, like, a lot of people don't realize that Ne0Kai isn't a trophy winner, but he is what EG need in the moment. I feel like they need a person that's gonna bring up the work ethic, that's gonna remember everyone else, what it feels like to grind against all odds and still play well, you know. I think he is a guy that's not went there for the paycheck, and you can see it. He's went there to work. If he's as good as a tier 1 IGL, if he was the best option, I don't know that. I don't think he was the best option either. I think he's a really good option for where EG were in the moment of the pickup.
I'm 99% sure it was a last-minute pickup. I swear I read EG were looking for someone else and they couldn't get him in time. And they're like, before the roster locked in Ne0Kai because he was the only one free. So
I think Hext was the last second one, by the way.
No, go away. He's on the contract, isn't he? So like to go between rosters is pretty easy. I swear I read somewhere that he was like Ne0Kai was last minute, but I don't know. For me, my personal opinion is that I don't rate him. I tier 1 level. I think he's a great K23 like player. That's his level. You know, tier 2 maybe you can make an argument for tier 1.5, but even still a little bit ropey there. But tier 1, absolutely not. And you can see it, like his performances. Obviously, I know he's an IGL, so stats wise, but that whole team needs to just rebuild from automatic, in my opinion. I know NA guys are gonna hate that and be like, oh, Hext, but sharp. It needs to be just automatic as like the linchpin around this team.
No, automatic's been really good. Guy. He's been really good.
Exactly.
Breezy, actually, we've seen some good stuff from Breezy.
For the first time in about 2 years.
I mean, you know, you have to
it's
start
too little,
somewhere.
too late.
No, I want to argue the point though, right? If you're looking at like this just from like any point of view, if you look at their group, like they did the job. Like I'm looking at that, and there isn't a best of 3 that they lost that I'm thinking they should have won that best of 3, right? Because you look at it, Cloud9, they're never winning that. Liquid are in great form right now with Yukindar. I think they've looked the best that they've looked in years. They look really, really good. Furia, I don't rate EG against Furia ever. They beat Eternal Fire 2-0 and they beat Movie Star Riders 2-0 as well.
Yeah.
Like they did their job, to be honest. You know, I'm not going to be overly critical about them because, to be honest, in the 3 games that they lost, I would never have them as the favorite whatsoever. And you know, even at that, right, Cloud9, they destroyed them. Liquid destroyed them. Even at the Furia game, though, like it was a 16-11 and a 16-12. Like, you know, it's not an absolute stomp, but still, you just get bet by a better team. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not amazing in terms of if EG want to, you know, get, you know, to the top of the scene again. They want to keep pushing back into tier 1. And to be honest, I'm very critical of EG, especially, you know, with Cirque being there, Ted. You know, I've already said to you, you know, I don't rate him very much as an opper.
I totally agree. He had 1 good map in 10 maps in the entire group stage, and that was Nuke against Furia. That was the only map where you could rely on him to hit a shot, and not only hit a shot, not only turn up, but not actually throw the game. Because like there was a lot of situations where I think that's the first time I've heard Sadakis just go, what the hell are you doing? Because, you know, there's been some really questionable plays. So I'm with you on this one. I mean, there's a Cirque jersey on the wall behind me, but I'm not blind. I mean, I can see what's happening in the server, and it's a totally valid point.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's like, you know, like there's no games in there that they should have won that they lost, and there's no games in there that they won that they should have lost. I think, you know, they went in 2 and 3. It's a fair result, especially when you think, you know, this is pretty much, you know, the first event that these guys are playing, you know, in terms of what EU. I mean, did they play the Blast Fall groups together?
Yeah.
They might have done, but you know, this is really the first big time big time event. You know, after that, you know, it's still very early doors for a roster like that.
They got farmed in Blast as well. Like,
yeah, they did
much better teams,
but like much better teams, and also, you know, it's the first time Ne0Kai is calling in tier 1 as well. You know, so they're obviously, you're stupid if you think that there isn't going to be a transitional period for an IGL that's making a massive leap. You know, I do agree.
It's
maybe there was better options out there.
It's the language barrier as well.
Exactly. You know, there's a lot of factors to it.
I'm fully arguing on both sides here. I think Ne0Kai is actually probably a cheaper, more sensible pickup in terms of what he can bring to the table with immediate effect. But for me personally, I think you've got to look at Ne0Kai and that team as a whole. EG are in this esport to be a title winner. This is not a title winning team.
I know. I think it hasn't been a title winning team for over a year now.
For a long time. So
since COVID
my argument is, sure, Ne0Kai might be a good point to bring up now in that he's got the experience under K23. He knows how to build a team.
Yeah.
Like, if you really want to like sift through the positives for the Ne0Kai pickup, don't get me wrong, he's not the worst pickup in the world, and I don't think he's the best pickup in the world, but I think it's not just him. You've got to look at the scope of EG. Yeah. This team here will not win an event in Tier 1 for the next 2 years if they keep with the same 5. So I think for EG, a very easy take for them would be, you either need to rebuild the team or we need to see something massively change in this roster in terms of the individuals and sort of the mind for the game and everything like that. Is Ne0Kai going to bring that? I'm firmly on the side of no. I think Ne0Kai is gonna be able to maybe make some change and improve some results. Maybe, you know, run a team to 1-2, maybe take a best of 3 here and there. You know, kind of be a surprise factor, a little bit of a one-shot wonder, kind of like a big, you know, where they can turn up massively in an event. But do you see them winning series consistently? Absolutely not. For me, EG really need to look into this roster and make some changes, and quick. Probably after the major, I'd argue here, in time for the new year. You've got to scout out some new players. I think this event as well, a lot of the players are in the red, and that's not ideal for a team that you want to be in for winning titles and winning majors. It's just never going to be there.
You know what's
one thing to add as well. This is their first win in Pro League in 3 years. Like,
the last one was against Heroic. It was in June 2021. If I'm not
three seasons even. So, but it's like, so obviously the whole agreement with Pro League is that, like, if you bang, you know, if you bomb out 3 seasons in a row, you have a review. And then, you know, there's potential that you can get, you know, kicked off the partnership program and bring someone else in.
Yeah.
And obviously, I know EG are so financially stable, so they didn't get kicked off literally solely only for that reason, because it wasn't for the ability. Because I reckon you could get any CIS pug mix from Tier 2 and they'd do better than
you could get a lot of Tier 1 players as well with the salaries that they offer.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when they're on 40 grand a month, right? I mean, to be perfectly honest, like, I think it's probably a case now that EG are waiting out their contracts to be done, because EG don't really, like I said, their moral compass is very good. I think they're going to wait it out. But if they're doing rebuilds, and I don't know why, if we're having this conversation about rebuilds, we should be talking about, Ne0Kai's great at building teams. Who gives a shit about Ne0Kai? Devor is the guy you need. He's a genius. Like, and he's proved it twice. He has got a very meh Copenhagen Flames team and rebuilt them from the ground up after losing their entire roster and got them back to a major 2 in a row and to a top 8 as well, with guys that he's plucked from nowhere. He's the guy they should just give him a paycheck and let him actually build a team, because he knows how to scout talent. I've spoken to Devor multiple times as well, and his eye for finding talent is unreal. He was telling me about, like, if he was to rebuild Copenhagen Flames after he left, before he signed for EG, the players he'd pick, and all of the players he picked are, like, now doing, you know, in other projects, doing really, really well. And he knows exactly what he's looking for. That's the guy you should give the money to. Keep maybe Automatic. I think it'd be kind of dumb to get rid of him. He's a poster boy, but I think the other 4, I don't really. Maybe Hex, because he's like a bit of a project there, but even still, like, I think maybe keep him in the Carpe Diem Party Astronauts roster and let them do their thing. But I mean, basically what they've done is EG, they've got 3 kind of just garbage rosters, don't do what they're meant to do. Like, their Tier 2 roster, the Party Astronauts, they're garbage as well for what they're meant to do.
The third one lost to a college team, by the way. I don't know if you've seen that.
To Davenport, right?
Yeah.
I know. I spoke to Kojima.
I was like, is that a troll? I mean, Stanislaw and Rush losing to people that are, I mean, fair enough to the guys. That's a sick result for them. You've beaten people. You've beaten a major champion. I mean, it doesn't really get better than that. But yeah, I guess. By the way, I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one to look at it from that point of view. I don't think so. But I think right now, if you ask the EG management, obviously, I'm not sure if they really want to go for any more roster changes in the next couple months. I think you want to give some time to this lineup, judging by what they've been doing. Because if you really want to pick up a roster that's straight up gonna start winning tournaments, you're not going for Hex and Ne0Kai, right? And you're not giving more time to Breezy and Cirque in the lineup. As you made a point about it, you can give some more time to Automatic because he's been doing all right. But, like, if you have to follow the results that have been in there, you want to win titles. You're not keeping the remaining 4. So what they've been doing, like picking up a coach that's good at building things, picking up Malik as well, again, as their strategical coach or something like that, analytical coach, I
he's
guess.
like behind the scenes.
Yeah. I think that shows that they want to build up. They want to see what they can do now. And I feel like this is maybe the last attempt to try and get Cirque and Breezy back into their form. And if they don't find this form until the end of the major, I think fair enough, EG should start looking for other options. As much as this hurts me, by the way, because obviously, Cirque is a great guy. You know, I'm Bulgarian and all, but in the end of the day, when you're a part of a tier 1 organization, you need to deliver. Even though I haven't looked at EG as a tier 1 team for a long time now, and I think this is something that a lot of people actually make that mistake. You know, you're looking at EG, you're like, oh, a tier 1 team shouldn't be losing those and those games. They're not a tier 1 team. This is not a tier 1 team. I mean, you have some tier 1 players or some guys that used to be great on tier 1. This is not a tier 1 team for a long time. So right now, if you're looking at EG, I'm fully on with Jack in this one. I think they did their job at Pro League. I think you get like, everyone has a perfect day on the last game against Furia. Everyone just wakes up, they're feeling like their old selves. You're going to be able to beat Furia, maybe, if the stars align for you. You beat Furia, you make playoffs, you get absolutely discharged in your first game in the playoffs, probably. But right now, what we've seen from EG is they've actually won games in a tier 1 tournament. No one gives... I don't care who they beat. What I'm looking at is this is a team that had won, like, their last game that they won against the top 5 HLTV team was in 2019 against Furia. And now they beat Movistar, who were number 5 on the date of the matchup. You can argue about HLTV.
That doesn't count.
Yeah, but
HLTV
the point,
shit rate.
Yeah, Astralis were number 4. We're not speaking about that. But
exactly.
The point I'm trying to make, you actually beat teams that are like legit teams, right? You beat teams outside of NA, which is like, it's not great. I mean, you beat Movistar and Eternal Fire. Everyone can make a list of points about those two teams not being good. We just made that about Movistar a couple minutes ago. But it's better than what EG were doing before that, right? It's still an upgrade for them. As much as it might not look like an upgrade, it's still an upgrade for them. So I guess you get a good result at the RMR. You do well at the major. You can start seeing some glimpses. But yeah, it's just been a really deep hole, I guess, that they've put themselves into. It's a really funny project, especially with how competitive the scene is nowadays. I feel like it's just going to be really tough for them to get out of the hole and actually do well.
Yeah, but man, like you're saying, you know, it's like, oh, well, you have to think about it. They're not a tier 1 team anymore. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, they're not a tier 1 team, but they're after acquiring these fucking 2 more rosters, and like I wouldn't have them in my main team. Like, do you know what I mean? Like they're dropping a map to 7 a.m. in the last chance qualifier at Philadelphia. Like EG are never going to be a tier 1 team again unless they go for a complete rebuild. And to be honest, I think they need to go EU if they want to compete. Like you look at any team.
Talent. SA as well.
Like in NA, like
so
there's just
many good SA players at the moment. Like honestly, you could slot Molbs in that team and he'd do so much better. Like that guy's an absolute fucking farmer. Like get him in the team. He's so like obviously I know he's doing well in Team 1 right now, but like Molbs, Luke, and like you can get SA guys who speak English. Like they don't even have to go.
The South American scene is popping off. To be fair, we're gonna get to that when we get into the Americas RMR. But actually, 9 teams in the Americas RMR are from South America. So you can you can even pick up. I think it was a team called Fluxo that myself and Jack casted in the CCME.
Yeah. They're up and down.
They're actually sick, you know. They're actually
they're
playing
a bit coin flippy, but I like what they're doing there. They've just sort of making a name for themselves. But I like what they're doing.
Yeah. So I guess there's a lot of ways that you can go, like if you want to pick up like different pieces. But you know, I think we should move on now because obviously we spent like 15 minutes trash talking AG and we can spend another 30. I feel like Yumi's really keen on that, by the way. Yeah, Yumi's really salty on
When's
AG
bedtime?
right now,
When's bedtime?
I can speak for hours on AG.
Yeah. So moving into playoffs, actually. So I actually want to hear thoughts on. I think all of us can agree on the fact that Outsiders did their job. I think Complexity did their job. I think Mouse are gonna be simply happy with making it out of group stage. But taking a look at everybody else, obviously we have Cloud9 doing a really good job at the group stage, beating FaZe Clan, high expectations. But then for FaZe and Na'Vi, things haven't really looked great. Now, we spoke about Na'Vi a little bit. Let me hear your thoughts on FaZe, because I feel like especially after, I think, who was it? I think it was k0nfig that said we haven't really felt more motivated or hungrier ever before, like, right after the break. But now this happens, and then Twists comes out, and he's like, okay, it's post-break, our communication just hasn't been great. So give me your thoughts on this one.
Ooh.
I can give mine, but I take the floor if anyone wants to.
Like, I mean, you know, right, they beat Complexity, like, 2-1. I mean, it's definitely an underwhelming event for FaZe, 100%. I think they're going to be disappointed with not only, you know, the dropping a map to Complexity is one thing, but then, like, when they go and they play Cloud9, you know, it's obviously going to be a tough game. But I think if you are FaZe, you need to be winning those. But I think that kind of goes back to the point that we're already making, you know, earlier, that it's just, it is so competitive at the top of the scene right now. Like, in tier 1, it is so competitive, especially when you're looking at, you know, those top 5 teams. I think it's completely wide open. Like, it's not, you know, back in the online era where it's Gambit and Na'Vi every single final. You know, it could be absolutely anyone out of a field of 8 teams to be up there. So I think it's dangerous for any team to kind of, you know, we were talking about after FaZe won the major, is this now, you know, FaZe's era? Are we going to be, you know, is this the rise of them that we've seen? They're at the top now. Do they just push on and keep winning absolutely everything? And the answer is no, because everybody is just so good at the top right now. I think anybody would struggle to kind of build an era at this time, because everybody can beat anyone. It's kind of like, you know, what we're mostly accustomed to in tier 2 of, you know, people coming into Twitch chat and going, how are these guys, you know, these guys are 50th in the world and they're losing to, you know, a team that are 100th in the world. And it's like,
to be
yeah,
fair,
because it's that competitive. You know what I mean? I know, but yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You get my point though. You know what I mean? It is just that competitive, and it is just that close at the minute. So yeah, maybe communication was just off a little bit. Sometimes you can come in and you can be a little bit rusty. You have to think as well, you know, it is, you're only human. You know, these guys, they are only human. That maybe it was just a bad event for them. Maybe they weren't that happy with it. You know, I know especially k0nfig is going to be disappointed with that. They're going to go back, they're going to look, and to be honest, I think they'll come back stronger for the RMR and the major. I think they're still going to be a dangerous team, but yeah, it's definitely going to be disappointing.
Yeah.
I follow up. I think kind of, you know, we look towards playoffs, and yeah, maybe you could say FaZe not getting towards the finals is an upset, but I think the kind of the main talk about is how good Cloud9 played in that best of 3 specifically. I mean, they were brilliant. Like, I remember I was watching it.
Exile.
Yeah. As well, like, kind of the credit to Cloud9, which I think a lot of people didn't really speak about too much. They hadn't played in like 2 months or something.
70 days. 70 days without any officials yet.
Yeah, they're not part of Blast, so they haven't played since like Cologne. So it's like, you know, for them to kind of not be in officials for such a long time and to come into Pro League and play so well, like, credit to them. I actually really thought that was gonna be a massive issue for them, because every other team basically, of all the big hitters, of course, like fucking like FTW and or any of them, but you know, all the big hitters, they had all been playing a Blast and whatever before, but Cloud9 have been ages. So credit to them, because I actually thought they were going to crumble a little bit. You know, it sometimes takes teams, especially like Cloud9, to kind of get back into their rhythm a bit. But I think in that game specifically, they were just really, really good. I mean, Axel had an absolute storm of a series, and he was unstoppable for a lot of the time. And I think as well, Inters, for me, he was so important. He was so good at locking out sites.
Inters was popping off, to be fair.
Yeah, and I think as well, because, like, you know, a lot of people just look towards stats and think, oh, okay, you know, maybe it doesn't always go. Yeah, but he does his job so well for me, Inters, and I think he's really impressed me as just a support role. He allows the kind of big names, the Shiro and the Axel, to kind of step up, and while he just kind of just does all the dirty work. But I think in that game specifically, as much as you could say, you know, FaZe upsetting, didn't get it through, maybe they should have gone to the finals. I predicted they'd be in the finals against G2. That was my original prediction before playoffs started. But I mean, credit to Cloud9. They did just play better. I mean, that was the simple way of putting it. As much as you can say, you know, it is upsetting for FaZe, Cloud9 were comfortably the better team on the day, and credit to them. But then, of course, where we see always from Cloud9 is the consistency is fucking all over the place. Because sometimes they're the best team in the world on the day, and then they end up being pretty meh. As we saw against Liquid, they had some pretty rough showings at times.
Yeah.
I'd argue a little differently about the Liquid game, to be fair. All three maps run quite close. Liquid winning Inferno 16-11, C9 take Ancient 16-13, and then Dust2's also 16-13. I don't think it was I mean, they should have won. There's no arguing that. They were the favorites to win. And yeah, they did throw away the final map a little bit. But overall, I think Cloud9 can be pretty happy with the event. You know, take the group, for example. You're 4-1. You only lose the one best of 3, of course. A little bit disappointing that you lose out on your final against Liquid. It kind of comes back to haunt you in the semi-finals. But I think for them heading into the major, you can't argue that these guys are in a pretty comfy position, right? You're competing against some of the best in the world. You're doing pretty well. And I think the only negatives you can take really from this is the fact that FaZe and Na'Vi get knocked out in the quarters. The teams that make the semi-finals are the teams you would expect to go out in that quarterfinal stage, or maybe one of them pushes for the semi-finals. You don't expect those 4 teams to be able to overrule FaZe and Na'Vi in that bracket. So for me, I think the whole conversation about this whole Pro League season is, sure, it's a bit disappointing for the top 2 teams in the world of FaZe and Na'Vi, but I think it just makes the Counter-Strike a little more interesting as we head into the second major, right? Is that I think it's so up in the air. Any team can win it. Sure, Cloud9 probably shouldn't have beaten FaZe with how well Map 1 went for the FaZe Clan boys and how close Mirage could have got. And Na'Vi just get absolutely demolished in Map 2 and 3. I think single best of 3s, you can't exactly write a whole story, though. And for these guys, we know they're some of the more consistent teams in the world that we have. So to see them have one bumpy result only, I think, will fuel them for the major. And I don't think, as much as you want to read into the fact that they came in the quarterfinals and got knocked out there, I think you've got to give them benefit of the doubt, is that sometimes every team can have an off day. And I just can't wait to see these guys bounce back, especially after, you know, Na'Vi, with the issues they had against Heroic in that in the round of 12 matchup, the 2-hour tech delay, right? Where they had to play on new Steam accounts because players were getting added and, you know, they were getting botted, games were crashing, PCs were crashing, whatever. It's not down to ESL, but on a different day, Heroic would have beaten them in the round of 12, I feel like, you know, where those tech issues don't have it. Heroic have all the momentum in the world. They probably pummel them in the round of 12, and we don't even see Na'Vi play G2. So for me, I think that's just something that's going to fuel them more. And I personally don't want to read into the lines too much, but I think if we see the same similar errors in the RMRs, that's where I think we can call it and have this discussion of, okay, actually, it's going to be a bit of an issue. For now, though, I want to keep the horizons wide because, you know, the argument, although it's a bit of a shitty one to make, sometimes teams do genuinely save strats for the RMRs, and they do a lot of loose anti-stratting, and it's not like as focused as what it usually is. So for me, I think you've got to take that step back. FaZe, Na'Vi, sure, you had your moment. You lost out in the quarterfinals. This is your redemption time headed into the RMR. I don't think anyone at home is doubting that those are still the 2 best teams in the world right now. We need to see more out of Vitality and Liquid if we want to have that conversation. Yeah. And the topical one for top 2. So I'm very much on the boat that FaZe and Na'Vi, it's just a one-off error from them.
Yeah, I guess right now you can make the point about just Liquid and Vitality being up there with the best teams in the world, but you can't really say that 2 teams are the best. Obviously, we said that. The scene is really competitive right now, but you know, as we've just spent, by the way, 1 hour speaking only about Pro League. That just shows, and I'm pretty sure that we can keep going. But yeah. I wanna just hear your thoughts real quick on the final and what happened there, and you know, Vitality and Liquid as overall. Obviously, we're not forgetting about G2. We're gonna get back to them in the RMR talk. You're gonna have the chance to say a couple things about G2, but quick thoughts on the final and what happened, because you know we have a lot of hot stuff.
I was gonna mention, I think for Vitality, it's really nice to see the work that they've been putting in as a 5 has paid off, right? You think back to this team, really inconsistent, not getting results. And even when they are consistent, it's poor results. So for me, it's really nice to see them get a victory. And I think when you look at a map-by-map basis, to go into Mirage, play triple overtime and lose 25-21, I think it's them and Na'Vi are the only 2 teams in the world that I would argue would be able to recover from such heartbreak in map 3 and turn things around and win the series in your favor. I think when you've got Zonic behind you, and when you've got obviously a couple of the Astralis players, for Vitality as a whole, you know, we've got really solid pieces. I said it with Jay in that I think this is the only team, bar Na'Vi, that could arguably come from a triple overtime loss like that and have the composure to close out the best of 5.
Oh yeah,
I think
Apex,
they did a
Apex
really,
plays
really
so
good
much
job.
CS. Like, it's not only the
Really, really good
Astralis
job.
boys. Like, Apex has been around for so many years. Like, he's obviously, you never get accustomed to those kinds of tournaments and games, right? You're always going to be feeling the nerves. You're always going to feel frustrated. But you know, if there is a person in the world that has all the experience, that would be Apex. I mean, he is a guy that's led his team to really devastating losses and great victories as well. So I guess like I guess Zonic and Apex are the people that you want to have ahead of your team when you're in that kind of a situation. But yeah, it's actually impressive, you know. I mean, me looking at the game, before the start of it, I thought Vitality would win, but then with how things were going, I was just feeling like I was seeing the best in Nav. Obviously, Kinder had a really good start, but then slowed down a little bit. But I felt like Liquid were just, no matter what they would do, I felt like for a second there, it was just impossible for them to lose that game. I was like, this is their tournament. They're going to pick up the victory here.
It was difficult to see Vitality losing it or Liquid losing it.
I think it was like, I felt like Vitality played a little bit better than them. I felt like Vitality is a really strong team overall. I think it was Kinder that I actually said that Vitality are a top 3 team right now. Before the game, but I felt like this entire tournament was just designed for Liquid to win it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can see that, but at the same time, it is very, very difficult when you've got a player averaging what 1.42 throughout the whole event. I think he finished on. So
yeah. Breaking records.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of difficult when, you know, you have a fella dropping what 143 frags against you in a best of 5
broke the
final.
record, by the way. The previous record, I'm pretty positive. We even have it on here. It was
Zeros,
it was Cold Zera against VP, and it was 130. That was the final of Epicenter 2017.
Yeah.
We even have it on here. So yeah, it's a stunning performance from Zywo. A lot of people don't actually realize that he put on the madness.
Man, like, absolutely crazy. Like, absolutely crazy. And if that's the form that he's going into a major with, they're going to be fucking dangerous. They are going to be very, very dangerous. Like, I don't know. That, like, it's absolutely insane to me. You know, they always make the comparisons, Zywo and Simple, you know, which one is better right now. I think you have to say Zywo. I think he's definitely coming into this with the best form. But, like, Simple, it is going to be interesting to see what he can do, like if he can find that form, if he can maybe settle. But again, you know, there's a lot of issues going on inside and outside the server for that team. But I think Vitality do have a real chance at this RMR. I think they played very well. I didn't actually get to catch the grand final because I was coaching EPS or qualifiers, so to get into relegation. So I didn't even get to catch it at all. But I'll definitely go back and watch it. But man, it was definitely a shock to see Vitality actually win it. But
you're gonna have the 7 hours of your life.
yeah, exactly. But I still wouldn't be disappointed if I'm Liquid either, right? I mean, going and getting second at Pro League is still a great achievement. And, you know, you have to think as well, only for Vitality having Zywo, I think they would have taken it. Like, literally, he was the complete and utter win condition.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned already, like 143 kills. I mean, a ridiculous performance. But I think for me personally, kind of when we were going in towards that game, it wasn't a doubt in my mind that Vitality were going to win it. I couldn't, as much as you can make arguments about Liquid, I never saw a world in which they took it. Especially when we saw the veto, like their vertigo was horrible. So that if it ever did go to a decider, like the whole thing was they had to win it at a 3-1. It couldn't have gone towards that 5th map because their vertigo is not great. I mean, their recent results have been pretty all over the place. I know they got battered by Fury not too long ago. So I was like, okay, if it goes there, you get concerned. And that's kind of what happened. Vertigo started off so one-sided and they couldn't really get back into it. But yeah, Zywo looked good. I'm not massively convinced on Spinks just yet. I know he was amazing in Ends, but obviously
you're not convinced on him.
Well, he's very coin flippy. His performances all throughout Pro League were so all over the place. You know, sometimes he dropped like a 1.3, and other times he dropped like a 0.7. Yeah. You're like, okay, right. Like it's kind of a question of what Spinks we're getting today. And in the final as well, he wasn't really kind of the difference maker by any means. For me, he wasn't that player who, obviously, it was Zywo doing all the things, but it was Magiscus. Magiscus actually, I think, one of the most important puzzle pieces that made Vitality so successful.
Magiskin Pit. That's all I want to be watching.
He's the space creator, right? He was the guy who allowed Zywo to have a lot of his success. He kind of just was the backbone to Zywo doing a lot of his just brilliant stuff, basically. But Yeah, I mean, credit to Liquid, and of course, most importantly, of course, credit to Yakinder. I mean, he was that Inferno. That was ridiculous. I mean, his opening duel stats like 8 and 3 at the end, which was just insane. Like, and in the first the first 7 rounds, he was 6 and 1 opening duels.
That
Like,
was first 10. Yeah, that was first 10. He was 6 and 1, which is crazy.
Stupid.
And it was all like through smokes or pre-fire.
Through smokes, full blind, just continuously taking banana. I mean, like he exposed Vitality so well. I mean, he had a really good game. I think as much as I hate to say it, because I actually like him as a player, I think Elysia an absolute disaster class. He had a bit of a stinker like the entire series. To be honest, I think Yakinder was the guy for me. He was doing all the big win. I think OC as well stepped up, especially towards the latter part. He really started to find his form a little bit. But yeah, it was just a classic case of Zywoo going plus 50 in a series. I mean, like, what can you do basically against someone like that? I think I predicted Vitality to win it when I saw those two in the final. I didn't expect either of them to be in the final. I when the playoffs originally were going through, I kind of thought maybe a G2 phase. Just because Na'Vi are a little bit shaky at the moment. But yeah, I think the only concern if you're Vitality away from that is that like Spinks isn't as impactful as he was. Apex, you're not looking for the impact from him. I mean, his whole role, his entire career was like an IG entry. Sorry, that was like his whole thing, and now he doesn't really need to do that anymore. So it's fine. But I think Spinks for me not as impactful as he probably should have been. And I know yesterday, myself and about like 4 or 5 of the casters were all watching the final. We watched the whole thing together, the whole 7-8 hours, and that was kind of the kind of key points we were talking about. Like Spinks is like just not the same as he was in Ents just yet.
You know what I think though? I feel like you change a couple positions, left, right, and center, and you're obviously gonna get a bit of a slow start. Especially when like it's a lot different because people need to realize you've been a part of Ents where a lot of the focus was around the riflers doing the job, and the Oper had a really different position. And really different like things that you need to do. Whereas in Vitality, a lot more like the game is a lot more Zywoo centric, if that makes any sense. So I guess in the end of the day, like you couldn't expect Spinks to be as good as he was on Ents. I'm not disagreeing on the fact that he's been shaky. He has been shaky. Some games he's been doing alright, some games he's been destroyed. But a really good example of like him getting completely annihilated, I think it's Inferno, and that makes a lot of sense because he switches to being the last B anchor defense, the guy that doesn't really move around, and he's never done that before in his career. So I guess you could even see like Yakinder was straight up abusing him because of that. Because he knows that Spinks doesn't really have the experience playing that role, so he's like, you know what, I headshot him 3 times. He's gonna have the feeling that I'm in his head, and wherever he tries to play from, I'm just gonna be headshotting him straight away. So I guess like we should give him some time to get comfortable because he is the player. He is the player that I tend to actually realize that with time passing, people actually forget. Like when we get towards the latter stages of an year and a player has a bad tournament, you forget about how good he was the first part of the year. That's 6 months of consistently good performances from Spinks and him being considered as a top 3 rifler in the world. And then he has like 2 not even terrible tournaments, just shaky for his standard. And people start putting him on the cross, which I think is wrong. I think, like, especially when you're joining a new project like that, obviously you're going to be working with people that are a lot different than before. And there's going to be, you're not going to be regarded as the star player of the team anymore. There's a person for that job. You're still regarded as maybe the star rifle, but you still have like Mages can Dupree, so you can argue that you're not such a big thing in this lineup mentally as you were in your previous team, right? Where a lot of people actually relied on you. So I guess in my books, I'd give him more time. I'd give him more time. Okay. I think he was the right fit for Vitality, and I think the results show it. It's short term, but I think he was what they needed, because let's not forget, like, even though he's shaky right now, he's still doing, I think, obviously you can argue about it, I still think he's doing a better job than Misuta did.
Oh yeah, I mean that's not hard though. Misuta was fucking garbage.
You know what? Neil's on something today. He's been talking. That's the third time you've called someone garbage.
No, he was bad though. Let's not be real. Like he wasn't. To be fair, I actually like Masuta as a player. He just wasn't good for that team. Like I mean, I think Masuta is one of those players who could do well in kind of maybe a little bit less of a pressured environment. Like in tier 2, he'd farm, like absolutely farm. Like I'd be pretty comfortable back.
What a toxic episode this has turned out to
Masuta, k0nfig, they're both in the same boat for me. I do think they'd be very, very good within like
I'd say
like a
Misuta's
Falcons.
a bit better than k0nfig.
Oh yeah, no,
Oh,
both of them
100%.
in like a Falcons or a Heat or
You're
kind of one of
perfect
those
for
French,
that kind of a team.
those
You're
French
absolutely
rosters.
perfect.
I think he would be great, but I just think in Vitality, it was very easy when he was there. It was like, right, where's Masuta? Let's go find him, and then we'll get that.
No,
side.
they're both good players. Like
Yeah.
Masuta is overall he's a really good player, but he's just like not the he
not
can't
that
be the
level.
Sphinx. Yeah, he can't be the Sphinx of the team, even though he's shaky.
Yeah.
But speaking of, I was about to make a pun about speaking about garbage, but I don't really. I can call the entire situation a little bit garbage for Astralis. There's been a lot of things happening. I want to get you into the news because obviously, like, we're gonna start.
Yeah.
You know, things are really interesting for Astralis nowadays. It feels like we're on a shaky boat for them as well. Let's start with the k0nfig scandal. Let's start with that first of all. Now, obviously, we're gonna get to the Vice later on, but a couple of days ago, we all of us wake up. We've had a good night's sleep. You open up your Twitter and you see an article from Jackson, I believe, where they said that k0nfig got into a fight outside of a club. Now, we're not gonna get into details. Obviously, there's been some spitting, there's been some fist fights and stuff like that. But k0nfig gets into a fight, gets injured. He's gonna be replaced by Mr., which myself and Jack have actually casted a fair amount of. You guys actually, I think you've casted a game of Astralis Talent, haven't you? Or you didn't? Yeah. Because you had like one or 2 days.
We did.
And, yeah, you did. So
we did them against Na'Vi on Vertigo.
Yeah. So you've seen something from Mr. We know he's a good player. Now, obviously, a lot of the young Danish guys are. Well, I'd say he can. Well, he's not the best.
I'd say Fesser's the only good player on that team.
You know what?
Leo is out for blood today.
I was just honest.
Okay, you know what? It really depends on what you're...
good player
on that team. Fesser is an all-rounded good player. Now, like, I mean, Mr. is not a tier 1 good player. He's like tier 2 shaky. Yeah, he's shaky. But what I mean is the guy has potential. Like every single other like Danish guy that gets picked up by Astralis Talent. It's still gonna be a massive setback though for Astralis. You know, even though k0nfig hasn't been really consistent. I think we can speak about k0nfig and consistency as much as we want, but it's still gonna be a bit of a setback. But give me your thoughts on the entire k0nfig situation. I mean, Maybe he's thinking like his CS career might be a little bit endangered by that in the end of the day, which is kind of unlucky. But apparently he's got some future in boxing if he wants to. Or maybe it doesn't. We don't know if he won the fight.
Mate, boxing, I think it's bare knuckle MMA, mate. Yeah.
You know what? We haven't seen the other guy, so we can't really say.
He broke his ankle, right? So he can't have done that well.
As far as I know, it's like only speculation as well, right? Like nothing is like completely confirmed. It's all just like reports and stuff. And
you know, if it wasn't for that k0nfig tweet saying most of it is bullshit, I would be like, okay, this is BS. But then when you go out and say most of it, that means that there's some of it that's actually
some
true.
Validity. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get in too deep on the situation because, again, I don't think we know all the details. And I think it's pretty unfair if we blast down k0nfig here and now for losing his temper, if it is all to be true. I would like to say, like, people lose it. I think we see a lot of the time as well, like the whole Boomich situation. I think it's very, very clear, especially after what happened to Boomich, is that we need context to these things before we make a full assessment on what's happened. I think for Boomich, everyone was quick to go, oh my God, like, look at him, paint him as the worst person in the world. Turns out he's like the nice guy and he's been caught up in all kinds of shit. For k0nfig, we don't know how anything started. We don't even know if all of it's true right now. We haven't heard his side of the story yet. And so for that reason, I'm going to stay quite conserved and be like, you know what? If it's true, it's disappointing. However, you've got to understand that if this harms his CS career, I think it's blown way out of proportion. I don't think it's done anything to do.
I disagree.
I think
stalking people in the street.
In the end of the day, things like that happen in life. I mean, we're all people, and
we don't know how it started. Like the guy could have ran up to him and swung at him first.
Article says he had this guy spit in his face. I don't know about you guys. If someone spits in my face, I'm gonna get infuriated.
You wouldn't take it.
And this is
but you got to realize when you're a professional in these things, it's the same way if fans talk to football players.
We're not saying he doesn't have any faults. In that
you're
scenario.
A role model. You're literally paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. Your whole thing is you've got to control yourself. And this was just a classic case. But the thing is, I think people are always forgetting this is config. It's always been config.
Yeah, he's been a controversial guy.
He's always been just hot-headed and always been a bit of a mess. This has always been config. This doesn't surprise me in the slightest that he got in a fight. Like, this is the most config thing ever because it's who he is. Like, he's always been someone who is hot-headed, really easily riled up. You see, even like in the way he plays CSGO as well. I mean, I spoke about this on my own podcast, and Trav brought it up. But there's clips of a game from way back when it's 15-15 and overtime, and he's like going for like knives and stuff. And
that's
like, what are you doing?
I think that was a major against Godsend, the player that got the knife was Schneider,
exactly.
If I'm not mistaken.
It's like that is config, right? You don't know what you're getting out of him. You never know. But I mean, in this situation, I don't mind voicing my opinion. I know we don't know all the details, but I don't like. I heard about this actually before the Jackson article, and I didn't want to say anything publicly because I felt like I should wait until it comes out. But someone who I know in Malta told me that what happened when they found out, and it was like a big deal. And I was like, my opinion is basically is that
so you basically confirmed that it was all true right now.
Well, there's no confirmation. They just said they'd heard, but
okay.
They're in Malta and they'd heard that config had done this because basically, well, first of all, Astralis wouldn't have come out and like tried to hide it and hush it up if it wasn't a big deal. Like Astralis came out and were like, oh, he's just injured his ankle and he can't fly. It's like, well, okay, you can't play because he's injured his ankle. It's like, oh, was he playing with his toes then? Is he? So it's like it's like basically Astralis came out, hushed it up, classic. They want to save face. It's ended up backfiring because the actual information has been released, or like what we know of, the alleged information.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. If it's true, it doesn't surprise me because it is config. He's very hot-headed. It's always been like this. I still think, it's the same way. Like if I get the example of a football player, they get abused like by fans, right? Like you think of like I want to kill Haaland. Stop scoring, please. Like it's actually not fair. You're a cheat code.
Let's not speak about that because I'm a Man U fan. Let's forget about that.
Yeah, exactly. If Haaland turns around and sparks a Man United fan for calling them, having a go at him, he's gonna get in trouble and drop from the team.
It's
like,
a little bit different though. It's a little bit. If somebody's hawking a gollier at you, do you know what I mean? If somebody is spitting at you, that's a completely different. Like, of course, we don't know the details.
It is a crime. Like it's a crime.
It's a crime, man. But if you are not thinking about, oh Jesus, this mightn't be the right thing to do in the moment, man. If somebody spits in your face, man, you see red, man, and you are swinging for the fences, man.
Yeah, but at the same time, he should know better. Like in terms of like, I know, realistically, as a person, you shouldn't, if someone spits in your face, you're going to be obviously very pissed off. But that doesn't, at the same time, mean that, he's someone who just goes around punching people up. Like, you are a role model. And he should know that people are going to know who he is, which is exactly what happened. Because someone in the street was like, hang on, that's config. Oh, hang on a second, config's in a fight. Hang on a second, config's just got fucked up by a bouncer. It's like, he should know better. Obviously, I know he was intoxicated apparently because he was trying to go, it was clubbing is the gist. And it was like the guy who owned the club, or like he was a promoter.
Yeah, it was a promoter.
But yeah, I just think like, I know as bad as it is getting spat in the face is obviously, I'm not saying it's not bad. I would be equally as pissed off. You can't go around just trying to punch people in the street and fight people because you are going to obviously get your career jeopardized, right? And I think this is probably potentially quite jeopardizing for his career because he is a brand risk. And esports is so reliant on brands. We've seen what happened to Carlos very recently. It's the most brilliant, most brilliant thing ever.
Let's not speak about that.
No, but in just the terms of context, brand is everything because investors are not going to invest when they got this hothead sparking people out in Malta every 2 seconds. They're not going to give money to Astralis, which is hence why they've probably been like, okay, this guy needs to sit out. But then, obviously, just in the case of Mr., I'm going to be funny, he went negative in WePlay. Like, come on now. If he's going negative, he's gonna struggle.
They're really different players. That's the thing that actually made me think about it because I don't think Mister is the entry for Astralis talent.
Well, it's Fessa, but they got rid of Fessa.
Yeah, exactly. So Mister was playing an entirely different role, right? I mean, he's more of a Zipex guy, if you want to put it that way. So it's really awkward because you either have to switch things up in the team and put Glaive on the entry, let's say, or something like that. Or you need to put Mr. on an entry, whereas he's never played that role in his life, which is not going to make it any better. So
he's going to struggle either way, isn't he?
Regardless.
He's not at that level. He wasn't even at that level in the WePlay league. I mean, I think didn't he end up like, was it like a 0.95? No,
he is the guy. He's the guy that's an alright player for WePlay.
Yeah, Fessa was for me when I looked at WePlay, and I've had conversations with people at WePlay, and I did I was doing something about doing a whole research about WePlay and who was the people to take away from it. And from that Astralis team, Fest was the only one for me that is like worth spending time into. I think I'm not going to delve into details, but I know Fest has external problems, which is why you don't see him at the moment for now. But yeah, he's
the actually going to play with Monte, right? He's going to play on the RMR with Monte, which is sick.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty cool. But I think all things considered, I don't think from what we've seen on Mr. and we play, that it's going to be that good. I think, if you're a team and you're counter-strat and Astralis, which isn't very hard at the moment, you're probably like, okay, wherever we see Mr., just fucking fire at him. Like, just go for this kid because he will crumble under the pressure, sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, even when you're not just filling in for the group stage of EPL or a Blast like group stage or something like that. You're filling in for RMR, which is obviously a minor. Like, you don't perform there, you're not making the major. And if Astralis don't make another major, by the way, that's going to be a massive disappointment. And I guess we're going to see some changes. But speaking of changes, Device. 600k euros.
Worst kept secret in CSGO, isn't it? It's literally been like a year. Like he's been. Well, obviously that's why he left NiP, isn't it? It was like, well, not left NiP. He benched himself from NiP because he wanted to force a move back. He obviously had all the problems with his wife or ex-wife now, and he doesn't want to be in Sweden anymore. Fair play. Worst kept secret. Finally happening.
I think it's unfortunate, by the way. I've grown to be a Farlig connoisseur, a Farlig supporter. I've grown to. You know what? He is like he's not.
No, he is good, but he's just not good enough.
He's not doing great, but he's good. Like that's what I mean. It's like I think it's a lot like it's not even like a Misuta thing for Vitality. I think for Astralis he's better than Misuta was for Vitality, but
I'd agree.
It's still like we're still speaking Astralis. So yeah, you're not good enough of an oper for Astralis, but you're still like considering how I'm not sure if I want to call him bad. I think Neo's toxic enough today, but
he's all right.
How crumbly Astralis have been. I think he's been doing really good compared to his teammates, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's the problem. I think Xyp9x is the problem with that team, personally. I mean, like, as much as I love him, he's a legend of the game. I do just kind of think he's done, right? He's so old now. Like, put your feet on, mate. Maybe get into a coaching role, a bit of back staff. But I think playing wise, I kind of I kind of think Xyp9x is the reason why like they're struggling a little bit, just because his impact's not there anymore.
Device rejoins.
Yeah,
because Xyp9x.
That's happening.
I think it's been a couple months like since people started speaking about Zip getting replaced by someone, but Device is a new one. Like, well, not new in terms of like a lot of people expected it to happen occasionally, but like it just got announced earlier today, or just leaked, I guess you could say, earlier today that he's officially rejoining. So you think Astralis can actually like be a proper, like a real top 5 team and not just according to some rankings. And
this whole argument, right, with like Device joining Astralis, for me personally, it's a bit stupid, because I think back to start of lockdown and things like that, where the remaining Astralis core took a break, right? I think it was like Glaive was out, Xyp9x was out at one point. They came back and they were playing awfully afterwards. Like the amount of time Device has spent on the bench, sure, he could be the best player in the world when he comes back, but I would argue very similar fate to the previous few. Is he going to be the same AWPer himself? I think it was like Ran that he's played like 100 games of Face It in the entire time he's been on that roster bench.
And he played those games in the past 2 months, by the way.
Yeah.
Like
he has been farming though.
Yeah,
but farming in a Face It pug is going to be very different to playing in a team.
And he didn't play Face It games even for the first 7 months, I think, of the year.
Yeah, well, when you sit on the bench for 7 months and don't play Counter-Strike because of personal reasons, you're never going to be yourself after playing day in, day out for years and years. So, I don't know, man. I think the argument is very obvious. Device coming back is going to be fun to watch. He's not going to be in for the minor or for the RMRs, obviously, because they're using already a stand-in. You can't use a second stand-in, and you can't change between the RMR and the major. You have to use the same 4 or 5, whatever the reverse role is there. So for me personally, for him, he's not on the major table. He's going to be sitting on the bench for another couple of months. As soon as they're done with the major, then he'll be back in business and you know, going at it again. Whether he actually is in the team, who knows? Even if he is in the team, I'm still setting my bar very low. It's Astralis at the end of the day, and I don't believe that one man can make up for all the mistakes that they're having right now as a team. And I'm really a firm believer that that there is more than one problem on that team, and I would argue Farlig is certainly not the worst.
Yeah, you know, it's really unlucky because I have the EG jersey on the wall, and then I have to I have to accept every single negative thing about EG that's being said and say some negative things as well. I have an Astralis hoodie as well, and then I have to speak shit about Astralis as well. But yeah, it's been a tough ride for them. You know, it's been a funky couple years. It's been a funky couple years for the Danish boys. But moving forward, we have some, I think, some positive news for the Danish scene. You know, Stown and k0nfig re-signing for 2 more years with Heroic. Obviously, Heroic's hasn't been a consistent contender for titles, but it's been, I guess you can make a point about, you know, those two being the best players on the team right now. So obviously we've seen some great stuff from Tessus as well. But yeah, that's some good news for Heroic.
That bait tweet, by the way.
Yeah, I thought they were going on.
Yeah, I thought they were leaving.
I was
like,
Heroic is now a tier 2 team in my head.
I was like, what the hell? Like, Caden still Stown leaving? I mean, do a good bait because actually got me in.
Initially, I thought Stone is going over to Astralis. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, no,
I was like, bring it on.
I think there's definitely something where like they don't trade between each other. I'm pretty sure there's some sort of like, there's got to be some sort of like, you know, prestige thing about, you know, they're the two big Danes that don't trade between each other. But I mean, obviously, great sign on again. I personally don't like the Heroic org, just obviously because of all the mess they've had recently, like, you know, in the last couple of years. But credit, I mean, they keep keeping the players around. Only thing I say is that bait tweet pissed me off because I thought they were leaving. So I was like, what's going on here? But no, I mean, good signing. It's the best way to put it, right? Keep them around. They're looking fine. I think they're still waiting to get Yabi like fully integrated into that team. But yeah, I think early doors maybe. I guess you still use the same argument you use for kind of the other teams of, you know, the Vitalities and the Ences and whatever.
Yeah, you know, we're running a little bit behind schedule, to be fair, because I actually didn't expect us to have so many opinions to say, and I don't think we've actually said everything that we wanted to. But before we get into the RMRs, which is obviously going to be our final, you know, talking point, give me some thoughts on 2 transfers that, well, transfers, not necessarily transfers, but 2 changes in the rosters that I actually think are quite interesting. First of all, is Faven actually being sick once again? And Sin is gonna be replacing him, whereas I think there's a bit of a different like statement you can make. Like if you compare it to the Mister thing that's happened for Astralis, I think Sin is a lot more interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing him perform on tier 1 level because like for Mister, I have no doubts that he's gonna be feeling the pressure. But I look at Sin, I actually wouldn't be surprised that much if he does well. I think he's a great guy. I think most of the big academy players, like obviously I think I said that to Jack when we were covering replay. I think big academy play the best CS out of all the academy teams, like in terms of structure and just looking like well-rounded players. And the other one is Anarchiz actually playing with Entropic, which obviously Entropic sadly aren't gonna be participating in the RMRs, which is a bit disappointing. But you're replacing Alien, which is you know, a big thing, big shoes to fill. So give me your thoughts on these 2.
I mean, anyone set the floor, feel free.
Alien had to go. I mean,
thank God! Yeah, someone else said it. Jesus,
Alien had to go. That was going around for ages, man. Like I was hearing Alien was being replaced for like 4 or 5 months. Like he just couldn't make the transition into tier 1 CS, and that's why Entropic struggled. I mean, we've seen it as well, kind of with Hades, maybe a little bit more. You know, when he went to Ents, it's always the comparison I use. He just, you know, he struggled, and that's as simple as. It's sad because Alien was one of the best players. He was one of the top operators in the CIS scene. Everybody was saying, is he the next big thing? Is he the next big operator out of the region to, you know, blast his way into tier 1 and start farming everybody? And the quick answer is no, he was not. So maybe he'll use that experience and he'll be able to bounce back. I hope so. I really, really do. But I think it's the right move. I think he needed to go, bringing in a guy like Anarchiz. I think, you know, it's going to be very, very good for them. I think it'll improve them an awful lot because they can rely on him. Definitely, it is still a little bit of a step for him to make, though, of course. So there is some kind of criticism, or maybe you want to be a little bit conservative about your predictions for a team like that and see where they go from here. But I honestly think it is a good move, and it's definitely a move that had to happen.
You know, it was interesting. He's speaking quite, like, I think he speaks fluent Russian, right? So
yeah, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. You know, Anarchiz is a great guy. You know, that's maybe the second most interesting thing for him. after being only 21 years old or 22 years old with that beard.
Yeah,
like,
it looks like a dad with a mortgage.
I thought he was 30, by the way, and that's no
Yeah,
offense.
yeah.
I'm a guy that gets that comment most of the time. Like Dweg on my bloody birthday, I turned up 21 earlier this year. He's like, mate, I swear you were like 25. So, yeah, you know, I guess like Anarchist is a great guy, you know, and we've covered, like all four of us have covered a sick amount of his games. You know, he's a really good guy in terms of like not even speaking in the game. Like he's a guy with a big heart, and he's got some really good reactions in terms of like in-game, like mechanically he's really gifted with the AWP. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he does. There was obviously a lot of speculations about Deku from One Win. He's been a great player, you know, a guy that's been accused of cheating numerous times. Same for Sensei, by the way, who got trialed out, but apparently things didn't really work out that well.
I think there's more legitimate claims to the Sensei one because he was part of Akuma and they were definitely cheating. So it's like,
you know what? I'm gonna stay silent on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to delve to. I mean, that's already been settled in the dust, and of course, thankfully, they, you know, the ones who are actually doing the malicious side are not really kind of prevalent anymore. I think, from my understanding, I think Sensei was actually okay. But yeah, I didn't really speak. I thought originally when they picked up Anarchist, they were going to then switch to English. I was like, oh, that gets rough.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
For
Russian,
a second,
so
I didn't believe it. By the way, for a second,
Yeah,
have you heard? Excuse me. Have you heard Mir communicate in English in FPL? No chance they're switching to a full-on speaking English team.
That's what I was saying. I was like, that's going to be brutal. But, you know, if he speaks Russian, fair play. The only thing I would say is I think Deco would have been a better pickup personally. But then at the same time, he's with One Win who are now at the RMR where Entropic aren't. So I don't see why we'd leave at the moment. Maybe after the roster lock opens back up again, there's potential there. And I think he would be a great fit because the type of orbit they're looking for to be able to compete in Tier 1, I think Deco's a bit of a step up. If they want to take a gamble as well, another guy they could look into is Wrinkle. He plays for BA. I mean, I really actually rate Wrinkle.
There's not a single Oprah out of those guys that hasn't been accused of cheating, to be fair. And Wrinkle's another really fresh one, you know. And it's like, it's even Faceit games. Like, whenever I see all those, like, you know, Bulgarian players that stream sometimes, and like, Duplicate has that used to play on Skate streams, and I think I called them like a month and a half ago, just playing a stack, like a really high-end Bulgarian stack, playing against Rinko and you know, Kurtka and all of these guys from Bait. And they were just like, yeah, he's cheating 100%. There's no way this guy isn't cheating. So
I like Rinko. I see a lot of positives in him. I think he's kind of he's a shining light in what is not a great B8 squad. I mean, in terms of like the RMR, I can't see them picking up a win at the RMR, but I think Rinko's actually really good. I think if they were going to gamble, maybe him, but Deco's the safe call. I think everyone was kind of saying that. It's a few people throwing around Head Trick's name. I'm actually glad
you said that, you know, because
people were throwing around Head Trick, but I don't think they're going to get his buyout. I'm assuming he's got an absolute spanking amount of money. To get him out of that Na'Vi Junior contract. But yeah, I think Deco would have been the better call, but I like Anarchist. I think his time in Finest, he was great, but I think the problems were outside of the server, from my understanding, from what I read and what I saw. I think, you know, they just didn't get on as a team, which, you know, fair enough, it happens. But if it works, who knows? Because, you know, we've seen Finest performance against Tier 1 teams when Anarchist was part of the roster and they did struggle. Even he couldn't help them out. Not saying that Deco might be the saving grace, but I think he may be in a more secure pickup. I don't know. It's all speculation, right? But I personally would have liked seeing Deco go. But at the moment, with one win in the RMR, why would Deco leave? To be perfectly honest, because Entropic looks so rough at the moment that it's no point.
Glad you bring that one up.
Yeah. There was like the point of being made, you know, would they go for Deco? I don't think teams want to touch Deco because Spirit had a chance to bring him in and they decided against it and they decided to bring Wonderful in.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big shock for me. I thought 100% Deco was going to be the next one in, because if you look at, like, all right, Wonderful's a good player, you know, but he didn't play a lot of Tier 2, right? I mean, I think he played in Hellraisers, and I think that was
Trasco
it.
before that,
but like he was playing against like a load of mediocre teams, like Tier 3, Tier 4 teams, like not even Tier 2, and he was like, I was looking at that and kind of going, like, he's skipping a whole tier just to make that jump into Tier 1. I was like, surely there's, you know, an argument to be made here. Like, Deco is proven in the Tier 2 scene against Tier 2 opposition and farming them as well comfortably, like playing really, really well. But I think there's actually maybe more than meets the eye to that one. I think there is maybe a few problems with Deco himself, and that's why teams are kind of staying away from him, which is sad. And now I don't know how true it is, but that is just what I've heard. But like that is really, you know, it's sad to see. It's sad to see because Deco is one of the best players, and I'm really excited to watch him and Woman at the RMR.
You know, I've seen Wonderful play on LAN, by the way, in Bulgaria, so I can say that the kid is safe. He's really good. I've seen it. That was a couple of years ago. You know, he was playing on a team called Majesty, and it was actually my first event in English. I covered that with Peter, with Kremer, and it was by the way, I think it was actually a tough lineup. It was me, it was Kremer, Veracity actually worked that event, you know, she was casting it as well. So it was a fun time, and he was on the only non-Bulgarian team because obviously it was just the beginning of COVID. There had been plans. Monesi actually qualified for it with Navi Junior, but then there was some problems with COVID, so they couldn't really participate in the tournament. They couldn't really travel, but Wonderful did a really good job, and I have actually been highly impressed of him. But I'm glad you started speaking about Bait and One Win in those guys, because as you can see, guys, I have a bit of a tier list made up for you, and I know Neo is a big fan of those. I know all of you are big fans of those, and you've been feeling quite toxic today. So, you know, I might on a different role. Do you want me to add another one? Because I thought I would be nice, and I would put like happy to be here. It sounds good. It's not really harsh. So maybe I can put another one that says get the fuck out of here or something like that. But you know what? No, we're gonna stick with that. But I'd love to hear your opinions on this one, and I'd say we can get started. Yeah, Fnatic. What are we thinking?
Okay, I think the way we should do this, gents, is we should agree for the See You in Rio section and the Happy to Be Here section. So we get like the good teams and the bad teams out of the way.
We get the best and the worst. We need to agree on.
And then filter through the middle. I think between the two, because I think that's where like most of the controversy will be.
Right? Yeah, Bait. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Okay, we're firing shots straight up. We just missed Fnatic in phase.
Yeah, but... agreed. I think as well. I think Aura are going to be happy to be here.
Astralis
for sure.
Yeah. I maybe put them as dark horse. I don't know, but
that's hopeful.
You know what's the thing though?
Can we add an unhappy to be here? We put Astralis in that one.
You know what's the thing though? If you look at the RMR, so you'd actually put Astralis in happy to be here. If you just look at the way that the RMR qualifiers went, but
I think if you really want to. If we want to split them 4 in each, then I think maybe Astralis is the 4th there. But in my honest opinion, there is enough teams here they should be beaten. I don't know about you guys, but my remaining 3 in this slot here would be Aura, Gamer Legion, and probably One Win.
Yeah.
No. I disagree with One Win.
I think One Win. I think One Win could be a dark horse. I think One Win could be a dark horse on a good day.
Wait, if I'm right in saying it is, it's only 2 teams that go 0-3, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So surely we should only put 2 teams for happy to be here. Like,
there's 3 teams that go 1 and 3 in this event as well. Remember that.
You beat a team that you think have no chance of qualifying, even if they get 2 wins in the end. You just don't see a world where this team makes it through.
For me as well, right? The reason why I wanted to put One Win in the Happy to Be Here section is because they are yet to play a LAN. Any of the players outside of Russia are yet to travel for a LAN, and that is the same situation as Aura. So it's going to be a whole new experience for a lot of these players. Not to forget that obviously they had visa issues, like some of them potentially weren't going to go. I think for me personally, I'd definitely be putting Aura in there. Gamer Legion, I think, go in there as well, just because they've obviously made some very recent changes to their roster as well with Chewy and Kios, right? They've just been brought in. And then the only reason why I'd round out, if you want to put a 4th team in Happy to Be Here, it would be One Win. Again, just because they're in a similar boat as Aura in that we've got some very hard hitters, but we don't have any LAN experience. They're better than Aura. I'm not arguing that. I think it's, for me, this team have yet to travel on a plane to go to a LAN event. So, I'm pretty certain.
It just depends how we're doing this in terms of how many players, because obviously only 2 teams actually go 0-3.
If you
only 2
compare
teams go 0-3, so they'll get at least a win.
Yeah.
One win will definitely get a win in comparison to like
Yeah,
I'd probably
agreed.
say a Gamer Legion or an Aura. I can't really
You know what?
see a world in which they're gonna win. So like,
Do we put
maybe
Bait
then
in
it
the
becomes
bottom?
like, yeah. I mean, the way I did like mine, it was like I did like 3-0 at the top, 0-3 at the bottom, and then qualified and then close, but didn't qualify. So that way, it's like you know all the teams that really just bomb out. You know all the teams that fly through. And then in between, it's like the ones that do qualify, but maybe like they qualify 3-2 or 3-1, and the ones that go like 1-3 or 2-3. So then it's like you kind of like can differentiate, because I'd say one win are better than the other three, and they will get at least a win.
Yeah,
but I don't see them qualifying.
They would be top of the. I agree with you on this one. I feel like I don't really see, because of obviously it's a really stacked group as well, as you can see. Like you remove those four, I feel like the rest can just qualify. Like you could see a world where all of them make it through. So I guess it would be fair to say that one win are on the top of happy to be here, but there's still a team that's probably not gonna make it through. But they're definitely like they have better chances than Bait, probably Gamer Legion and Aura. Although I actually can't speak enough about Gamer Legion. Like I can't really say anything about them. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't seen a lot with the new roster.
I cast them getting through. I'd say they're better than Aura and B8, but it's not much in it. I mean, they're so fresh, right? It's so hard to call. I think I really like Shuhei as a caller. And I think the pieces they've got, like the names, they're prominent names that we all know, but it's just a case of whether they can gel as a team. But I'd say one win in Game League is slightly better than Aura and BA.
So we agree. We agree on those four. I think we can agree on those four, and we're gonna like have to the back of our heads that Jack says that one win should be in Dark Horse. But unluckily, Jack, we're not fair, and it's 3-1. So they're at least getting the top spot of happy to be here.
Yeah, it's all right. You remember who your mates are. That's all right. No problem. No problem. Snakes don't hiss anymore. They just make shite your predictions. That's okay.
Okay. We had that. There's a bit of love from Jack for one win. So, Sue and Rio, I guess that those ones should be pretty straightforward. I mean,
think are we putting 4 in there as well? I think it's going to be FaZe, C9, G2,
and then you look at Fnatic, right? I mean, you should be looking at Fnatic.
The only thing that would put me personally Fnatic over any of the others here is the recent performance at EPL. I think they did exceptionally well. Obviously they lose to Liquid right in the round of 12. But even then, that's a 3-mapper. They take 13 rounds off of Inferno. They smack them on Overpass, and it's 16-10 on Ancient. They just had a pretty slow CT side. Me personally, I'd be putting Fnatic in the top slot. However, I think the more realistic decision, in my honest opinion, I think the safe call out of all of this should be NIP.
I think I think we leave those 3 here. By the way, I don't really get the. I don't get the same. I don't get the same vibes from NIP and Fnatic.
They're not the same level. I think we can all agree they're not the same level.
FaZe, Cloud9, and G2 are all gonna make it. They're all gonna make it into the major. They're probably gonna obviously be legends. Well, I guess that just depends on how they do here at the RMR. But I can see those 3 teams making it into the playoffs of the major even. Under the right circumstances. Whereas I don't think we can say the same for Fnatic and NIP. So, Astralis obviously is going to be a... I just realized
dark horse,
we need to put Astralis as a dark horse, right?
Under the tier list.
Yeah. I think Fnatic and NIP go here. Should make it.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Sprout as a dark horse. I'm not a believer that they've got 100% chance, but the pieces that they've shown are pretty good. And I think I would argue the same a little bit for the B&E boys as well. We think back to the last major. I don't think that they've got the world of opportunity, just because if you look at their recent results, they haven't been the cleanest. However, the pressure's definitely on. I was talking to someone about this recently, in that for B&E, the difference between the last major and this one is that they had zero pressure. They were a team with no organization, no funding. They just turned up and they played with their hearts. This time, they have something to lose. And for that reason, I believe that emotions could get ahead of them. We saw what they were like against Ninjas in Pajamas, right, in Blast. And I would say that they bottled it on Inferno just because they were getting so tilted at the most basic of rounds. I'd be putting them in Dark Horse over the should make it through.
Yeah, I think they go ahead of Sprout as well. I mean,
I would.
Yeah,
I in my
I'd
own
even
tier
put them
list,
ahead
I
of Astralis.
I'm
I'd put them ahead of
Astralis.
Astralis.
You
I
think
would.
so?
I don't think Astralis go through.
No,
Like,
I think
I'm pretty certain from I'm looking at my own list. I don't think Astralis go through, and I actually don't think Sprout go through either to Rio.
Yeah.
They are the most inconsistent team in the world. I don't actually have a lot of faith in them. I'm just looking at kind of like how like my own tier list and like who's gone through and who's not.
Yeah.
I don't see. I did the matchup calculator. Right, we go match by match, and you can kind of see the path of all the teams. And from like the realistic one of like what I thought in terms of like mostly the favorites going through. Astralis didn't go through. Eternal Fire didn't go through. Sprout didn't go through either, and obviously none of those.
By the way, I think because obviously a lot of the teams are going to be in Dark Horse, and we're going to be trying to figure out which one goes in front of which one. I think Spirit is the team that deserves a spot and should make it.
Oh, they're going.
and Force.
Their route is.
And I'm thinking,
really nice.
I'm thinking about Force, but I think Force is top of Dark Horse.
I think
Force get through.
I think Force get through as well. I think those two teams are like they're the two teams that every single major. There's a lot of people overlooking them, but at this point we can't. At this point, you've made like Spirit play bloody playoffs in the previous major. Force actually did a good job, and they've been doing a good job for the past two majors. So
from the calculator, they actually get through. Like in terms of like favorites thing, they get through before Spirit. Like that, like they've got a really nice run of like how their games pan out. Like I can't remember exactly who the first game's against Sprout. In fact, if they beat Sprout, then their run's actually pretty decent all the way through. That they should actually go through like not 3-0, but about 3-1.
Okay.
I think. I mean, the only one that in like the path that becomes tough, I think they go against the G2. I think like later down the line. From off the top of my head, but obviously I don't see them taking that. But all things I think Force get a pretty early make their way towards Rio. I think Spirit will be 3-1 as well. But those two should be pretty comfortable. I can't see a world in which the likes of like any of the guys below them comfortably beat them. Like just because I mean B&E maybe the argument to be made there, but I don't see one in which like Sprout or Astralis comfortably like decimate them.
No.
Yeah. By the way, speaking ecstatic.
I think they're in the bottom. Man.
I think Ecstatic are in between a Dark Horse and happy to be here. I think they're happy to be here. To be fair, I
think they're definitely happy to be here. Man.
If that argument's being made about Ecstatic, I'd say Eternal Fire are worse than Ecstatic.
Oh, I
really?
agree on that.
No,
I don't agree. I don't buy
there
it.
Is
I don't
no
buy
shot.
it.
Xantares is better than every single player put together.
You know what's the thing? You know what's the thing? We forget that
Masonic. Give off it. No chance.
Okay, Ecstatic in 2 months.
Masonic were part-time when they were playing under the Masonic banner. You look at Ecstatic now; they've literally only gone up since they've made. This team.
But hear me out, Ryan. I get what you're trying to say, but still, you need to realize like experience does play a massive role, and all of these games are going to be played on LAN as well.
Sure.
I don't think we can put Eternal Fire and Ecstatic under the same category. However, I can see a world where Ecstatic are with the same lineup for maybe 2, 3, 5, 6 more months, and under the same organization playing. They're playing some solid CS. Get a little bit more experience, and then be considered as a team that's going to be able to make it into a major and have a good run. Because let's not forget, like you look at a team like Force, all of these guys, like a lot of them didn't really have a lot of like solid experience before the Force project, right? Obviously, we don't speak about Jerry because he's been there for 5 years now, but teams like that need some time to get the experience. It's not like you can't just go on your first LAN event and be cool, calm, and collected. Now, obviously, there's going to be people like Patsy that can do that because it's like, apparently the guy is born for it. But I feel like you can't, like, out of respect for Eternal Fire, we can't really say that. And one thing that we actually saw from Eternal Fire in the Pro Leagues groups, which was positive. First of all, Xantares is doing a good job. Like, he still got it. And when it matters the most, Woxic can actually turn up from time to time. I know it's too inconsistent.
Mate,
but
you're playing with fucking Paz and Major. You're not hitting shots as well as you should be. I don't know where X-Cloud is.
You're not, but you're still playing. I don't think you're playing a worse game than Ecstatic. I feel like simply because of experience and simply because of the nicknames. Like, the nicknames do make a difference sometimes.
I think Eternal Fire based on experience can definitely beat Ecstatic. I mean, they did play against each other a few weeks ago, and Eternal Fire beat them 2-1, and it was very convincing on the third map.
Yeah.
Just for me personally, though, I don't think a lot of people are going to give Ecstatic enough respect. I've always stood by this as well. I was talking to k0n about this. Obviously, he's playing for Aura. And I think actually a lot of people are going to be quick to look over this Ecstatic side. I think the skill ceiling on this team is actually pretty high.
Oh, yeah.
I think you look at the players individually, Cabby, Manx, all very solid. Breeze's an individual.
Kragen's
an
animal,
player,
by
an
the way.
absolute animal. And overall, I think Ecstatic, sure, maybe the stats don't look ripe. Everyone on that team can farm. Breezer had an unbelievable game. When they qualified for the major, or for the RMR, Breezer dropped like a plus 17 on Dust 2 in the first half. Like, he was unreal. I think this team has every opportunity to make it. However, I haven't looked at how they seed, how they play against different teams. I'm still standing by the fact that I think if you put them on LAN, Eternal Fire will have their money run for them by the Ecstatic boys. I think you guys are very siding with Eternal Fire.
Disagreeing.
You know what?
It's the thing. This is literally like comparing Liverpool to like Charlton Athletic. Like they're just in different tiers.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that.
It's a side that compete with tier 1 teams. They could like a side like Eternal Fire who at least have
Ecstatic
matches.
beat Ents 2-0 last week. Like they've played some good teams.
And then got battered by Into the Breach. Who like, I'm not being funny. I'm not calling Into the Breach world beaters by any means. Well, Eternal Fire like taking on tier 1 teams on a regular basis. They're getting decent reps under their belt against tier 1 teams. Where Ecstatic are like crumbling against Saw or getting beaten by Into the Breach. And as much as I love UKCS, I'm not saying Into the Breach by any means a major side by any means. It's comparing these new kids who are looking good for tier 2, but they're not, if you look at, dominant tier 2 teams that we've done in the past, we've always looked towards Skade, Entropic, Copenhagen Flames, these big names of like tier 2 teams that can maybe make the push. And no one has ever said, oh yeah, Ecstatic are the gatekeepers of tier 2. They're those guys at the top. They've never been that consideration. They're starting to look really good. There's no one that's just coming out and be like, yeah, this is the best side in tier 2. Where for Eternal Fire, they are comfortably better than most of, if not all of the tier 2 sides. I don't think anyone would make that argument. I know, you can make arguments for Paz. That's absolutely fair enough. I'm actually fully on board with that. The whole X-Cloud thing was a bit of a mess, but I just think it's a completely different comparison. It's like, comparing literal, like some of the best players ever come out of the region who have comfortably sat in tier 1, who have looked so good for so long, battering decent teams for a long time. Then they literally beat Maus like the other day as well. I mean, this is a very, very good side. And then it's comparing Ecstatic, who are like okay at times in tier 2, or like pretty decent in tier 2, but they're not in, comparable to tier 1 sides. Like you can just tell, even by their map depth as well, they're not.
I think you can compare them, though. I think like you can compare them, but the only comparison that I disagree with is, you making the Liverpool and Charlton comparison, because Charlton are much better than Liverpool right now. But,
I knew you were going to say the shit about that.
In like, I'm only messing about that, but you know what I mean? Like, when you're looking at Eternal Fire and Ecstatic, like the Masonic boys, don't get me wrong, me and Ted have this conversation, I think, every time we cast them. These guys are unbelievable, especially Kragen. Like, I can't speak highly enough about the fella. Like, I love watching the play. I think they're a great team.
I'm planning to have him on the show for one of the first like interviews and stuff.
Definitely do, man. Like, because he's a very good player. He obviously knows what he's doing, but you're talking about an RMR here. You're talking about playing the best teams in the world, trying to make it through a major. We're making the argument, the fact that, all right, well, we're not putting one win in that category because, these guys, they couldn't get a visa, or, they had all the visa issues. They were coming over. It's their first time in a big international event. Like, it's the Masonic boys that were part-timers 6 months ago.
Exactly.
Like, going to another a big event. Like, you can't say that one win are going to be down there when you're not putting Ecstatic in that category as well. I think Eternal Fire, definitely have to put them ahead. 100%. I don't like it isn't really comparable in that sense. And to be honest, I think Ecstatic, they might do well. But then again, they might get absolutely folded. Let's not forget, they're playing G2 in the first round. So, they're already going 0-1. They're already starting disappointing. And depending on who's down there, the matchups could be like really, really difficult for them. So I don't know. I think Ecstatic are definitely in the happy to be here, be there. I think, maybe they get a nice result in there, but I'm definitely not hopeful. I'd definitely be putting Eternal Fire ahead of them.
Yeah.
Have Ecstatic ever played a LAN, by the way?
No, that's the thing. Like, they've played. I think they've played. No, they've played, but they've played Danish LANs for sure. Like, 100%. I mean, but it's a little different. That's the point I'm trying to make here. Ecstatic is a team that's definitely going to become good. All of these guys could become like really good top Danish players in some time. But
yeah,
like,
I'm just saying you've got LAN veterans
case.
who are known for being scarier. Like Xantaro's peaking is scarier on LAN as well, but just because of how much quicker he is and like how much of an animal he is.
Yeah.
Like it's like, you know, you've got a guy, you know, you've got guys in that team who are so fabled, and Woxic on the same thing is cracked out sense. They're like scared within like, you know, a scene against some guys who, you know, a few months ago were playing in Dust 2 DK League, you know, under Masonic. I love the Masonic guys. I respect their work ethic. I just don't think it's comparable. It's like, you know, it is.
You know what that is? That is a classical Imperial case from the previous major. You can't write off players like that when we're speaking about a major. That's the thing. That's why I think they're
just they're veterans. They're so experienced. On LAN, they're never going to feel the pressure.
Psychologically, you're really well drilled on that scene, and you just play way better. You're actually motivated. And that's like that's one of the I think that's one of the main reasons. Like, obviously there was an HOTV article even about like how players age and if you actually can perform on a high level when you get like to 30 or 32. And yes, you can if you have the motivation. Like what's one of the big problems with a lot of players actually falling apart like at 26, 27, 28? It's not that if they want to be as good they can't. It's the fact that they don't really want it anymore. They don't really put on the same hours. They don't really have the same motivation. They don't have the same drive to go. But when you're playing a major, it's a lot different. There isn't. I don't think there's a single player, maybe bar Olofmeister, but I don't think he really could be bothered anymore nowadays. But I don't think there's a single player out there that's gonna play a major, and no matter how many he's played, he's gonna be like, you know what, I don't care about this tournament. We saw that from Imperial. Imperial were, you know, not playing the best CS, but they still made it into the legend stage of the previous major with no one giving them any credit whatsoever. And I was like, you know, when I was looking at Imperial back then, I was like, if those guys get to a 2-2 matchup, if they get to an elimination game, they're winning it 100%, no matter who they're facing. And, you know, I think they faced someone like Fours, and Fours were cracked back then. They were looking a lot better. But in games like that, as we have a saying in the Bulgarian scene, it's something actually that Spy Leader used to say quite a lot. The nicknames make the difference sometimes. And I feel like this is one of those scenarios. I'm not saying like Ecstatic. I think all of us can agree that Ecstatic are great guys. But in the same time, the nicknames do make the difference. Like, you can't be writing off people like that, especially when you see that in the previous event, Woxic and, well, not no Woxic. He had one good BL3, but it was still cracked. But you saw Xantaros actually had a good event. Obviously, a lot of points could be made about X-Floud because I think he had a place on the team. But in the end of the day, I feel like you just have to separate those two. And even if we don't put Ecstatic and Dark Horse, we still put them like maybe on the same level as 1-1 or just position 2 or something like that. I think those two are leveled up.
So I'm looking now at the games that they get. If it all goes down to odds, right? So they'll go 0-1 against G2 and play B8. And honestly, I'd back them in that matchup. Then they play.
They destroy them. They'll destroy B8.
Yeah, they'll beat B8. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they're against then they're against the lads at Aura in the 1-1 bracket.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think they beat Aura.
Definitely against Aura, or who?
So if they lose against G2 and then beat B8, then they are against Aura. If B8 beat them, then they're against Gamer Legion. But I think they beat B8. I think we're all in agreement there. They play Aura. They go 2-1. They'll play against Spirit, which I think Spirit will very correctly win. And then in the 2-2 stage, if the favorites are to win in all the Eternal Fire games, they play against Eternal Fire.
Yeah, that's gonna be great. I hope that happens. By the way, yeah, that's gonna be a sick game.
Yeah, I'd love to watch that. Personally, I'm pretty sold on the fact that Ecstatic have a chance to make it in a pretty deep run. Yeah. Whether they qualify, it doesn't look too likely right now. But 100%, I see them through to round 4 and round 5. Yeah. I think that they are going to be very close, if not on the margin, for qualifying for the major. I think the only issue with this list is I think Eternal Fire maybe moves slightly up above. I think Astralis needs to come down and Eternal Fire need to go up a bit. And I would move. Nah, I'd keep it like that. I think the Eternal Fire should move up past Astralis. I think is the only thing I'd say.
Yeah. You know, maybe swap Sprout and Astralis too. I can't
Astralis, and I think this is like the list.
I don't see Astralis making it through.
I see Astralis losing to Ecstatic if it's a BO1. If I'm quite honest with you.
They're so rough, you have no idea.
You know what? I actually hate BO1s. I hate BO1s so much on majors. I feel like it's something that doesn't have to be there. It makes it a lot more interesting, but yeah, contributes to a lot of turnarounds.
Man, if they're BO3s, man, you'd be forever and a day going through, you know, like
fair.
it'd be pro league all over again.
You know what's the thing, though?
5 week or more, do you know what I mean?
I think people don't realize how much more interesting BO1s makes the tournament, because like you can like easily you could see like G2 or Cloud9 or FaZe losing a BO1 game to, let's say, a Spirit or a Bad News Eagles or someone like that. So they drop down, like they lose a couple of BO1s, they drop down 0-2 or 1-2 or something, and then out of nowhere, like you can get a 2-2 deciding game, including one of the top teams in the main Swiss, which is kind of exciting. But yeah, I guess we can shake our hands on this one. You know, I'm just gonna be making a quick screenshot of that. Gonna post it on Twitter so people can tell you how bloody shit you are with your predictions as well, if they want.
I mean, you even use the word bloody, man.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just embracing my UK guests. That's one of the most UK words I can think of.
What did he said something to me on a cast the other day, and I can't remember what it was, but he's picking up my mannerisms as well, and just little things that like Irish sayings and Irish phrases.
I think it was something like I can't it was I don't remember. It was something like,
I can't remember it either, man.
Or me head or something like getting in me head or something like that. Which
no, it was something different, man. I think he used gaff or something. I think you were like, yeah. I was like, what? I was like going around the gaff, and I was like, oh man,
maybe,
way.
or I just misspoke. But you know, moving forward, we went through that was Group A of things.
Oh, we got RMR B as well.
Yeah, you know what's the thing though? We're not gonna do a tier list of this one. I just wanna hear like maybe 1 or 2 minutes from everyone, because we're really running late. I mean, apparently like we're not gonna be able to speak too much to the chat and have too much of a discussion with people, because like it's been 2 hours and 10 minutes and we still have like we haven't said a word for the NA RMR, by the way. Let me tell you that. So I guess I'm just gonna show the the Group B on stream. I want to hear like quick thoughts from all of you, like in maybe 2 minutes, but we kind of have to rush with this one because it's going to be like a 3-hour episode if we take our time with it.
I think we could just run through like like, you know, you just say your things.
Yeah. I'll start out then, and I'll try and set the bar. So to qualify, I have I think Na'Vi, Ents, Heroic, Vitality, Mouse. I think those are the obvious ones that I'd put in there.
Yeah.
Outsiders, maybe, if I didn't mention them already. But for me, I think there's a lot more divide in RMR B than RMR A. I see Heat going out, Illuminar out, Saw 100% going out. There's like a mixed team as well going, right? Like
there's Monty.
Fantasy guys, Fantasy are gone, Monty are gone. I think the only ones that I could see maybe teetering, OG and Monty, Falcons, Big. Those are the 4 I see in the middle.
Trio, 100%. I think it's gonna be. Oh, I was gonna say Na'Vi, but I think I'm gonna have to put Vitality in there now because of how well they played at Pro League. So I think Vitality Trio and Ents Trio. That is my big call. I think Ents are going to be very, very good in this RMR. And it's a little bit of a dark horse. To be honest, I think a lot of people are going to sleep on them, even after their Pro League performance. Then going through, obviously you've Na'Vi, you've Mouse, you've Heroic. They're the next 3. Then it's really up to anyone. I mean, outsiders, I think they go through. I see maybe Sangal or maybe a dark horse. Don't rate either of the French teams. I think Illuminar are going to get farmed. I think Saw, Monty, and Fantasy are going to get absolutely rolled. The same with K23. And I think OG, Big, and Sangal are going to be kind of battling it out for like the kind of bottom. You know, the 3 and 2. I think those guys will just about get through, but I don't really give the French teams or, you know, any of the mixes or anything like that a chance.
I'll follow that. So just like the 8 teams, I think I'm gonna go through. I've got the list. So Na'Vi and Heroic, big outsiders, Vitality, comfortable. I don't think Falcons make it. I think Mouse will make it, and then I think OG is gonna be the other one. Just based off the calculator, I think OG like they just sneak in at the end there, but they're the ones that make it through. The rest of them I can't. The only ones I could potentially see maybe causing an upset is I think a Saw might cause an upset. I do actually like Jerks. I think from FEW, I mean, they're the 2 guys they picked up from FEW are the 2 guys that made them qualify for Pro League. So, I mean, there's like kind of, argument to be had there that kind of some of the 2 best up and comers from Portugal. So there's maybe a world in which they cause a bit of problems, but I don't really see it happening, to be perfectly honest. And maybe K23 just do kind of what they do, where they occasionally take down a big side, sneak a couple of wins under their belt. But all things considered, this one seems pretty readable. It seems like all the big names will make it through. I don't see Falcons making the 3, to be perfectly honest. But aside from that, all the big ones do. I think OG might just sneak it in because Falcons are a little bit kind of iffy for me at the moment.
Yeah, we've had the time to actually speak about a lot of these teams, speaking about Pro League as well. So it's not like we're looking past them. I think first matchup, like potentially there could be some upsets in terms of the only thing I'm gonna say that's maybe a little bit different to what you guys said, because I feel like a lot of the things that you said, like all of them made complete sense. But I'm looking at Monte, by the way, and that's not only because of Red Star. I think Monte could be a nice surprise there. I think Monte might not be a team that's going to make it through, but it might be a team to take down a couple of big names.
If I remember correctly, though, they're not playing with Boros in this match.
Yeah, no, they're playing with Fesser. They're playing with Fesser. They're playing with Fesser. But I still, I might have put my thoughts wrongly in there. I think it's going to be
you're smoking, Ted.
It's going to be a really exciting team for me to watch. This is what
they've lost the only player who can play against tier 1 opponents.
I don't think
who's actually capable.
I don't think they make it. I don't think they make it through. I think I'd argue Red Star is capable of playing against tier 1. Come on, he hasn't
in a while. That's the thing. I do actually like Red Star though. I agree.
Boros has less tier 1 experience than Red Star. I'm pretty sure. He's played less games again.
Wait, look at the RMR. I'm pretty sure at the end of that RMR, Boros has something stupid like a 1.7 rating by the entire RMR, including the non-HLTV thing. Like someone worked out, like his rating was stupid. Like he was the out and out hard carry. He in regulation dropped 40 something kills as well, and like on HLTV, as I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
In like the 3rd RMR. So like I mean he is he was the only like reason. Yeah. I think Fessa filling those boosts, there's no chance. Like,
I'm excited for Joel as well. I think he's a great guy. I think this entire team is just really it's really entertaining for me. This is an entertaining team because it's like 5 guys from FPL, all of them extremely good. All of them could become tier 1 players at some point, and you're gonna see how they're gonna be able to do. And I think they've had only 2 months of practice or something like that, and I believe Red Star is even IGLing for the team.
I think they could have 2 years of practice, mate. I don't think it's going to make a difference, to be honest. I think they're going to get absolutely torn apart.
No, I think they get 1 win against either Fantasy or Illuminar. I can't see Illuminar getting a win. I think they get 1 win against like one of those sort of seeds, but in like an 0-2 game. But like they're basically benched heroes, but worse. They're like worse pound for pound. Heroes. Like Smooth is better than any of them. This should be a straight up.
This should be a straight up.
Is better than the 2 Ukrainian guys there. Like I think like all things considered, this is just like it's literally a budget benched heroes, and I don't even think benched heroes are great anyway. So without Boros, I can't see a
Neil's
world
don't smoke today. Don't ask me what I've been smoking. Neil's don't smoke today. He's giving it to everybody.
It's the truth though. They're worse benched heroes pound for pound.
If you want to give the smoke to somebody, we're going to be moving forward to the NA one real quick. Now this one has to be real quick because I feel like all of us can agree on one thing, and that's the fact that Team Liquid and Fury are probably going to be picking up the first 2 spots, and Complexity might be in the run for it if they get a fortunate game against Fury. I don't think they're beating Liquid. But
I'd argue Imperial's up there as well.
Bar those 3. Yeah, this is what I wanted to ask you, because obviously we have like I think we have those. Initially we have 5 teams that qualify, and then one of those 3 qualifies as well. So we have 6 in total. So let's say Furia, Liquid, and Complexity we can all agree on. No need to discuss that. We're gonna go through every single one of you again. Which are the remaining 3 teams that you see going through?
We're saying Complexity, Furia, Imperial, Liquid, and you want 2 more?
I think like obviously you're sold on the Imperial idea. Neo and Jack might not be sold on the
No,
Imperial.
I'm not.
Okay,
I'm
so
sold on it.
so
Okay.
I'm gonna go Furia, Liquid, Complexity. I've missed one of the big ones there.
Imperial. Yeah.
Imperial. I'm gonna go Pain Gaming,
Okay.
and I think the other team that make it. Oh, it's difficult to say, innit? It's oh my word.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the teams now, and it's like the best of the rest. Like who turns up?
You know, you got a 9Z in there. They've been all right.
Yeah.
0-0 Nation maybe.
Do you know what? I'm gonna go with 0-0 Nation as the 6th team to qualify.
Yeah.
I follow that. I mean, for me, I think I don't think Imperial are as secure in that thing. I think Pain are leaps and bounds better. They literally proved it both in the best of 1 and the best of 3 on LAN recently as well.
Yeah.
At Melbourne, they farm them. They are better in every way.
Yeah.
Zevi and Skulls is better than anybody.
Pain is a sick team right now.
Yeah. Right at the moment, Zevi and Skulls are better than anyone on Imperial right now. Like that's how good those two are. They are absolutely insane. And Big Azera is one of the best entries I've ever seen. Like he is unbelievable. It's just a hard
I've seen Neo actually had like 10 desk segments.
My gosh,
for
I
Big
love
Azera
Pain.
there and for
My
Zevi.
God.
He was the Pain fan, but you know, true be told, they did a good job.
They farmed. I mean,
them as well.
they won Melbourne convincingly.
Yeah,
like it wasn't even close as well. Like, I think Fallen had an amazing tournament. But all things considered, I think Pain are more secure than Imperial. The picks I went for the two kind of better teams, of course, being Fury and Liquid. I think that's pretty standard. I think Complexity make it. Their recent forms are pretty good. That game against FaZe was pretty interesting. I think Horzig's actually, as much as I flamed them, I think Horzig's actually looking pretty decent.
Yeah.
I think Imperial Pain make it. And then as much as it's a rogue decision, and as much as I've slandered them, I actually think EG make it just because of, I looked at the calculator and their run is so nice to them. Like, it's like, when I did it, it was like, I think one of their games that was going to be interesting was like, it was either against like Isurus or Nouns, and it was like they beat both of them. If I was going to be realistic and it wasn't the calculator, I would probably say 0-0 Nation are a better team. Well, I think they are a better team than EG, or maybe 9Z. That new 9Z roster is actually really cool. They got some decent pickups. It's a very young, fresh face South American side. I think MIBR about Cello now, they're not really the same team, unfortunately, so I don't think they have a chance. But I think EG make it just because of like some calculator thing I was looking at where they've got a good chance just off the back of the games they come against. Well, I think it was that they were playing against a Plano to qualify, and I think they're better. But I think just on the calculator they scraped through.
I'm just looking, man. I've never seen this Nouns team before in my life. I've no idea who any of them are.
Squad. It's I don't know if you saw them. It's like Semphis is coaching them.
Yeah, I see Semphis is coaching them, man, but I've never seen them. I think EG definitely will go through because they'll get a good run on it. I think it's Liquid, Furia, Complexity, Imperial, and then it's a toss up. But like EG are definitely in there, I think.
Yeah.
If all things considered, and then I don't know, like it's so strange, like it's so difficult to choose between Pain. I don't think MIBR get in there. I think 0-0 Nation have a really good chance. I think Team 1 have a really good chance, and then the rest of them probably not. So I think between those three, oh man, that's tough. That is very, very tough. I think just because Cold and Taco are on 0-0 Nation, I think I have to go with them. I think so. But I wouldn't be shocked either if Pain and Team 1 best them to it. 100%.
Yeah, makes sense. You know, the South American scene has been popping off. I think I'd go for pretty much the same thing that Neo did, to be fair. I think Pain make it 100%. I think EG make it 100% as well.
I think they just squeak through. Just by the calculator.
And, you know, you can get away. You can get away with you can get away against some of those teams, even if you're not that great. Like you just need a good game from Automatic or from Breezy or from somebody. And I guess for Cirque as well is going to be a little bit easier in those matchups, even though, you know, obviously confidence is on an all-time low. But, you know, it's a bit different when you're playing the guys from Now's Esports and when you're playing, let's say, a Liquid or something like that. So I guess you're gonna get a lot more from the guys that might be lacking some confidence on EG. So I guess they're gonna do a good job. But yeah, I think that rounds it up quite well. We've just had the new HOTV World Rankings drop out. Actually,
yeah, I've already tweeted about it.
and
Astralis 8th, get the
Astralis
fuck
are
out.
still a top 10 team, which is a bit
I'd
interesting.
say-
You know,
Yeah,
thing
it's
that's good about
money
it.
being paid. That's
One
where the
thing-
device money's going.
One
man.
thing that's actually interesting, right? Vitality are top 3, which I think we can agree on, right? They're third.
Yeah,
Liquid
I'd say
actually
so,
dropped one position because they were third before that. So they actually made the final, but they still dropped one position, which I guess Navi and FaZe were already
It's fair, yeah.
too far ahead. Cloud9 6th, G2 5th. Which I think we can again agree on. You know, I feel like we have the 6 best teams in the world in the top 6 right now. Obviously, FaZe, Navi, Vitality, Liquid, G2, and Cloud9. Then we have Furia, Astralis, Mouse, and Heroics rounding up the top 10.
Man, Astralis shouldn't even be in the top 20. I'm looking at the
Yeah,
teams.
Fnatic are 19.
Yeah,
by
if
the
you're
way.
putting Fnatic
Yeah.
19, Astralis are like 60th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another
Endpoint top 30
Yeah, Endpoint.
Yes,
I was
the
about to bring that
with
one
4
up.
players. With 4 players.
Yeah,
Nice.
Endpoint top 30.
Yeah,
with 4 players.
I actually disagree with that one. As much as I love UKCS, did they even have 4 players? Milky's not playing for them anymore. He announced today, and like Kiebi's on leave, so they technically only have 3 players right
Is
now.
he on leave?
No, he's
yeah,
not on leave.
He's on
like,
personal reasons.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah, but he's only
okay.
gone for like a week or something like that. I think
okay.
is the run that we're
Imagine
getting. So he's still, like, on the
he
roster.
decides to come back into CS, spends a couple months in the UK org, and he's like, yeah, I've had my fair
Yeah.
share of it.
Well,
I'm going
I
back
mean,
into retirement.
The whole thing is he wants to use Endpoint as a stepping stone. Like if he gets any offer anywhere else, he will leave straight away.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
that's
But
the
I don't
agreement,
think
basically.
he's done well enough for tier 1 yet. So
No,
yeah,
not at all.
He is where he's supposed to be. But
Nerds, like as much as I love Endpoint, Nerds is the only thing. That's keeping that team afloat.
Nerds is the only player from that team
They
that can
are-
go into tier 1 right now.
They're struggling.
I-
I mean, I think me and Ryan cast them recently, but I think it was. Well, I watched them recently, and yeah, they're rough Endpoint. I don't actually know how they've climbed their way in towards.
But Nerds is a good player, you know. I mean,
he's unreal.
Boros
He's so
not being
good.
on the team has actually opened up so much
think-
space for him.
Yeah. I think as well, the issue with these HLTV rankings is that the teams that are in the top 30, top 40 are just going to keep getting the invites to the big events.
Yeah.
That's something that I change. Is like, you're always going to see an Endpoint, an Entropic, a Forza, a Heat, like just because they're in the top 30, get the invites to the main Swiss stage, to you know, your Elises, to your Home Sweet Homes, or the equivalent now, obviously. Like, there's just so much dependent on the rankings right now. That's the only bit of taste. Heat 25th, fair enough. I think that's like one that maybe I'd argue should be slightly lower down, just because how they did most recently in Pro League. I mean, they won 1 matchup in the entirety of it, and it was against Astralis, and that was a 2-1. And the final map was 16-14, so it wasn't exactly like it was a close one. But yeah, I think that this is just looks about right, other than Astralis being 8th in the Worlds. Probably add a 0 to the end of that, and maybe I'll believe.
Wow.
The
Okay.
Astralis
We're
ranking's
giving
correct.
way too much smoke to Astralis now.
No.
80 might be a little bit too much.
Yeah,
but-
it's extreme, but like,
yeah.
man,
surely
like hell, are
not.
they even in the
Surely
top
not.
30?
Not top 10 right now for sure. No top 10 right now for sure.
I would like to point out the reason why Endpoint will be in the 30th position is because they beat Na'Vi in ESL Pro League, and they're the best team in the world. Well, second best team, and they hold a lot of points. So you'll get a lot of points for beating them 2-0. That's the only reason why they're going to be so high up and why they've gained.
Ryan's the only
places.
only person in the world that actually understands how HOTV rankings work. I don't seem to figure it out up to this day. I feel like
and
it's
because
really
it's LAN
random.
as well. That's the reason why they'll get so many points off the back of
joking
it.
about it, but it's some interesting stuff happening. Obviously, we can all agree on the first 6 teams that they're the best in the world.
Yeah.
But I guess that's gonna conclude it now, because it's not like I don't enjoy us speaking, guys, and chatting, but it's been like 2 hours and 20 minutes now. I think we've had we've had our fair share of talk. I want to thank you all for being a part of this. You know, as the first episode of the TED Talk. You know, some of you might know I've actually wanted to do this for a long time, because I've been speaking about it for months, and I've been a lazy motherfucker. But it's finally here. Thank you for joining me on this one. It was a really good talk.
course. Thanks for having us.
Big
Yeah,
up
thanks
Ronnie
for
for the
having us.
graphic.
Yeah,
These
big
are
up
your graphics,
Ronnie.
right?
Big up Ronnie
My
for the
goat.
graphic. You know?
Love that guy.
Yeah,
Love
yeah,
that guy.
it's
Big up
great.
Ronnie.
It's great. And he was really responsive, by the way. I think we did like he had a lot of things actually.
Talented dude.
A lot of things coming up, and he still managed to do it fairly quickly. So yeah, Ronnie.
As long as I'm breathing, I'm gonna push the Ronnie agenda. He's
yeah,
my goat.
Ronnie is a big guy. Ronnie is a big guy. I actually saw you have him. You have him in the competition for like the Ne0Kai diamond
Yeah, of
coin
course.
stuff or
That's
something.
speeds Ronnie every
Yeah,
day.
I hope
Yeah,
he wins it. By the way, I hope he wins it.
He did all the graphics for it, so
Yeah.
you'll see why the video, which
Oh.
actually will be coming out tomorrow. at 6 p.m.
Okay, yeah. So
Shameless plug.
It's gotta be done.
Use
It's gotta be done, the boys.
Ne0Kai at checkout.
It's
Yeah.
gotta be done, boys. 6
Yeah,
p.m.
obviously.
tomorrow,
Yeah.
UK time, 7 p.m. EE.
okay, so obviously, guys, you can find Jack, you can find Neo's, Ryan's social media and stuff in the description of the video, because that's going to be uploaded on YouTube for those of you that are just watching it on Twitch. It's going to be uploaded on YouTube for those of you that are watching it on YouTube. It is being live streamed on Twitch right now, so you can follow my Twitch as well and watch the next episodes as well. But yeah, I guess subscribe to the YouTube channel, like, do whatever, you know, bell and all of that, not to miss anything. And yeah, thank you for being with us. And I guess we'll see you in the next episode of the TED Talk.